Chapter 2083. But how did Zhuge Shursan's corpse suddenly turn into a Yin corpse? When Luo Qingtong approached it, it was still motionless. And Luo Qingtong's blood eye did not detect any abnormalities. How did it change so suddenly? But when Luo Qingtong approached the corpse, she also felt a little strange. Zhuge Shursan's corpse had been dead for a long time in this cave. Logically speaking, it should have been eroded by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals, and turned into a Yin corpse. How could there be no movement? But at that time, she only thought that Zhuge Shursan had some way to prevent himself from turning into a Yin corpse, so she did not pay much attention to it. After all, under the investigation of her blood eye, the corpse was indeed just a corpse, and there was no trace of abnormalities. She did not expect it to change in an instant. Luo Qingtong frowned. Suddenly, she thought of the transparent door that she had blasted open. Could it be that the existence of the seal prevented Zhuge Shursan's corpse from being eroded by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals? Then she blasted open the seal, and the aura of the outside poured in. And then Zhuge Shursan's corpse was affected? Luo Qingtong thought about it, and felt that this was probably the only reason that made sense. But she also felt that something was wrong. But now, she did not have time to think about it. After the Yin corpse transformed from Zhuge Shursan's corpse stood up completely, it suddenly screamed and pounced on Luo Qingtong. Boom! The wind that it pounced on was like a sharp blade, and the direction of the wind was enough to turn into a blade and cut people into pieces. Luo Qingtong's face was cold, and she immediately jumped up when it pounced on her. Bang! The Yin corpse that Zhuge Shursan transformed into missed its target. It had just finished its transformation, and its bones were still very stiff, so its movements were not very fast. Luo Qingtong relied on her eye technique to barely dodge its attack. But when it transformed a little more, its bones would become more adapted to its body movements, and its lethality would increase exponentially. Bang! At this moment, Luo Qingtong's attack came down. Annihilation. As soon as she made her move, she immediately used her strongest attack without holding back at all. This was a Yin corpse that could use the power of an exalt realm. Luo Qingtong would never be so arrogant as to joke with her own life. Deathblade power. Soul of myriad flames. Luo Qingtong's sword light instantly became as dark as ink. The black sword radiance was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. It drew a cold and murderous arc in the air, and slashed toward Zhuge Shursan's corpse. At the same time, the power of the soul of myriad flames in her body burst out in an instant. Along with the light from the sword, countless colors of flames clustered around the black sword light. It embellished the terrifying sword light that seemed to have come from the nether realm with a myriad of colors, and it was extremely magnificent and gorgeous. More than 10 kinds of flames tangled together, and around the black sword light, beautiful flowers bloomed one after another. It carried a terrifying power that could burn people into flames, or freeze people into cold flames, and it blasted toward the Yin corpse in front. The power of annihilation dissolved and transformed the power around the Yin corpse, and finally transformed it into its own attack power. Chapter 2084. This was an attack to pay someone back in their own coin. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent. Boom! The sword light ruthlessly slashed at the Yin corpse that Zhuge Shursan had transformed into, instantly creating intense sparks. However, the Yin corpse was completely unharmed. The attack that carried wisps of venerable realm aura blasted on its body did not even leave a scratch on its skin. This won't do. Little Pig jumped from the great Yong corpse puppet to Luo Qingtong's body at this moment. He stared at Zhuge Shursan's corpse that was roaring madly and pouncing towards Luo Qingtong. This Yin corpse's strength is too strong. To be precise, Zhuge Shursan's strength was too strong when he was alive. I guess he's at least a green venerable realm expert. This little bit of venerable realm aura won't be able to break through his defense. Green venerable realm? Was that the level of strength above the venerable realm? Luo Qingtong's brows slightly furrowed, but she did not have the time to ask Little Pig about this matter. Because at this moment, 2 wild roars suddenly came from somewhere behind her. He saw that in a dark corner of the cave, 2 roaring Yin corpse monster beasts slowly walked out of it. Their wide-open mouths had already rotted, revealing the eerie white bones. Their bodies were shriveled and greenish-black. They were almost as thin as skeletons. However, the strength around them was abnormally strong. Venerable realm. Luo Qingtong looked at the two corpse beasts that were walking out, and the light in her eyes became even more serious. A corpse that could use a trace of venerable realm strength, and two corpse beasts. No, not two. Not far from the two corpse beasts that were walking out, the other two corpse beasts also roared madly and staggered to their feet. Their wild and ferocious roars shook the entire depths of the cave. 4 corpse beasts. And all 4 of them had the strength of venerable realm. Luo Qingtong's eyes became extremely serious. Little Pig's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Oh my god. Is there a need to be so exaggerated? With this lineup, who the hell can take away the thing that the beast-taming King's Valley people want? F***ck. If they knew earlier, they wouldn't have stopped the beast-taming King's Valley people from coming in to take this damn thing. It's better to let them come in. At that time, everyone would die. How convenient it would be. It would also save us from being trapped. Thinking of this, Little Pig cursed in his heart. Those bastards from the beast-taming King's Valley, they've really killed me. When Luo Qingtong heard its words, her heart skipped a beat. She seemed to have thought of something, but she could not grasp it. Then, a series of wind-breaking sounds rushed out from within. Bitch. Beast-taming King Guguju and the others appeared in the stone room. They immediately pounced on Luo Qingtong. Their eyes were bloodshot. They couldn't see anything except for Luo Qingtong. They didn't even notice the scene in the depths of the cave. That bitch. Beast-taming King Guguju's heart was filled with hatred. It wasn't easy for them to get rid of that huge blood shadow. They lost several high-level experts because of it. Every time one of them died, Beast-taming King Guguju's heart would bleed. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, he wanted her to die without a burial place. I'm mentally and physically exhausted from the cold. Sorry, I sent the wrong chapter to you earlier. With the purchase of treasures, the word fixed is the correct chapter. The book coins won't be deducted again. This chapter is the compensation for the extra chapters. I'm really sorry. Chapter 2085. When Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others rushed into the depths of the cave, the 4 corpse beasts had also finished their transformation. They roared and rushed toward Luo Qingtong. Their bodies were like whirlwinds, and the holy venerate strength around them stirred up the spiritual qi in the cave, causing it to surge and vibrate continuously. Roar! As they rushed toward Luo Qingtong, Zhuge Shursan's corpse tore apart Luo Qingtong's annihilation, and Soul of Myriad Flames attacks. It then tore apart the energy storm around it, and rushed toward Luo Qingtong. A pincer attack from all sides. This moment of crisis was unprecedented for Luo Qingtong. Ever since she transmigrated to this strange world, she had never encountered such a critical moment. All of her paths of coming, going, and retreating were sealed. If it were someone else, they might have already collapsed in despair. In front of Luo Qingtong was Zhuge Shursan's corpse, and to her left and right were the 4 corpse beasts. Behind her were Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others, who were attacking her like malicious spirits. They had ferocious expressions and wanted to kill her at any moment. In this kind of crisis and perilous situation, anyone else would have died. She couldn't move forward, she couldn't retreat, she couldn't even dodge. At this moment, Little Pig's expression was extremely solemn. Its face, which was usually mischievous and unreliable, now looked indescribably dignified and solemn. If it really didn't work, he would have to take action. Since Luo Qingtong's strength had increased, Little Pig had been able to use the strength of his main body after sleeping for a long time in the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. These 4 corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's corpse were not difficult for him. But the bad thing was that this place was not right. Just like how Yi Qianxian couldn't enter this place, and if he forced his way in, the scene would collapse. Little Pig was the same. If he used his main body's strength, the scene in the graveyard of immortals would immediately collapse and disappear. Didn't Luo Qingtong enter this place to gain experience and obtain treasures? Now that he finally got the news, Little Pig naturally wouldn't use his strength unless it was absolutely necessary. As for Luo Qingtong, when Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others rushed in, She had already guessed who they were. She didn't expect Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others to be able to avoid the huge blood-colored shadow and rush into the depths of the cave. Luo Qingtong's face was slightly surprised, but the light in her eyes suddenly lit up. Such a pincer attack from 4 sides was an extremely thrilling situation for anyone. But for Luo Qingtong, this was a rare chance. If Luo Qingtong's, she would Luo Qingtong. As Yin Corpse Beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Yin Corpse. After all, she could still barely avoid Zhuge Shursan's Yin Corpse. But with the addition of 4 Yin Corpse Beasts, she wouldn't even have the chance to escape. At that time, she would have no other choice but to ask Little Pig to take action. But now that Beast Tamer King's Valley's people had arrived, they became her best shield. The Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master, and the others were truly noble and virtuous. It wasn't easy for them to get rid of that gigantic blood-colored shadow. But now they were rushing over to block the disaster for her. They were simply too good to her. Chapter 2086. She had to leave quickly so that the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others would not be in vain. As she thought of this, her lips suddenly curled up. Then she pulled Yunxi and leaped up. In that instant, her eyes burst with a blazing light. The blood-red light filled Luo Qingtong's eyes. The blood-red pupils kept spinning. Very quickly, the sky was filled with blood-red light from a certain point in the eye. It instantly radiated in all directions and dyed the whites of Luo Qingtong's eyes red. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's eyes were blood-red. Her aura was domineering and evil. She was like a blood-red demon god that rose from the dark night. She was extremely evil and charming. In her eyes, all the trajectories and attack directions of the pincer attack from all directions were rapidly evolving in her eyes. Countless lines and lights flitted across her eyes. Countless possibilities were demonstrated. Finally, she chose the best route of evasion. Boom! Luo Qingtong's figure leaped up in an instant. Driven by her thoughts, the undead hag beside her also leaped up with her in an instant. Boom! Luo Qingtong's figure leaped toward the top of the cave. The depths of this cave were extremely large. The distance between the top of the cave and the ground was not short. It was enough for Luo Qingtong to leap up and avoid the attacks of the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Swish, swish, swish. Luo Qingtong's figure made several turns in midair. Her figure did not move in a large arc in midair, but she still managed to avoid the attacks of the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Naturally, the corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint had contributed to this. Its figure had always been in front of Luo Qingtong, blocking all the aftershocks of the attacks. Bang! Luo Qingtong's figure flew to the top of the cave, and then flew behind Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. After Luo Qingtong flew up, the latter and the others immediately faced Zhuge Shursan's Yin Corpse and the 4 Yin Corpse beasts in front of her. Roar! The 4 Yin Corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Yin Corpse were originally going for Luo Qingtong, but now that the girl had run away, they naturally targeted Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others who were closest to them. When the latter and the others heard the roars of the Yin Corpses and the Yin Corpse beasts, the reason that had been drowned in anger suddenly came back. Seeing the Yin Corpses and Yin Corpse beasts pouncing towards them, their faces were indescribably ugly. Damn it! Luo Qingtong, you bitch. You're using us as a shield again. Beast Tamer King Guguju's face was like thunder. He had never thought that after rushing into the depths of the cave, what he would face was not the scene that he had imagined, where he would beat up Luo Qingtong and then torture her until nothing was left. Instead, there were 4 Saint Venerable Yin Corpse beasts and 1 Yin Corpse that could use the power of a Saint Venerable. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, used them to block the disaster again. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master were about to vomit blood. Why did they rush in here with all their might? Wasn't it to kill Luo Qingtong and get the things inside? Who would have thought that they would not get anything, but block another disaster for Luo Qingtong? If they had known, they would not have rushed in and waited outside for Luo Qingtong to be killed. Bastard! Chapter 2087. The 4 Yin Corpse beasts were menacing, not to mention the Yin Corpse of Zhuge Shursan, who could use the strength of a venerable realm expert. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were furious, but they did not dare to be negligent. Otherwise, with the formation of these 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpses, it was enough to completely annihilate them here. They used all their strength to barely resist the attacks of the 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpses. But this was only temporary. When the joints of these 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpses were completely softened and no longer stiff, their strength would soar again. At that time, they would be miserable. While the people of Beast Tamer King's Valley were fighting against the Een corpse beasts and Een corpses, Luo Qingtong took Yin Shi and rushed to the entrance of the cave. Taking advantage of the fact that Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others had not reacted, and were still resisting the Een corpse beasts and Een corpse beasts, she had to leave here as soon as possible. Otherwise, when they reacted and did not need to stay in the cave, they would turn around and chase after them, and that would be troublesome. At that time, Luo Qingtong would not only have to deal with Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, but also the 4 Een corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Een corpse. As her figure rushed out, the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint followed closely behind her. Because its body was resisting the aftermath of the attacks of Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, who knew how many big holes were blasted in its body. Its whole body was in a mess. But fortunately, its limbs were not injured. Although its body was broken, it still firmly followed beside Luo Qingtong. The young girl glanced at it, thinking that after leaving here, she must find some Een corpses to nourish and restore its strength. Fortunately, she had increased the strength of this corpse puppet before. Otherwise it would not have been able to resist the aftermath of the attacks just now. Luo Qingtong's jumping figure would also be affected by the attacks of Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. At that time, it would not be easy to avoid their attacks and let them collide with the 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpses. With this in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately rushed toward the entrance of the cave with Yin Shi in tow. However, just as she was about to reach the entrance of the cave, roar! A ferocious roar suddenly rang out. Then, a huge blood-red figure pounced towards Luo Qingtong from the corner of the passage ahead. At this time, Luo Qingtong was rushing at full speed towards the direction of the light coming from the cave entrance. Since there was already light, it meant that the cave entrance was not far from the corner. However, who would have thought that the giant crimson figure would rush out at this moment? Luo Qingtong didn't have time to stop. She rushed towards the blood-red figure. Seeing it reach out to grab her, Luo Qingtong's eyes froze. Bang! The life and death Yin Yang sword in her hand suddenly stretched out and inserted horizontally into the passageway beside her. Sizzle! A sharp, ear-piercing scraping sound suddenly rang out. Fierce sparks burst out between the wall and the blade light of the life and death Yin Yang sword. Boom! Luo Qingtong's figure finally stopped in front of the palm of the giant crimson figure. Chapter 2088. Luo Qingtong's gaze fell on the crimson figure. She found that its originally formless body was now filled with blood, revealing itself in the air. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows at the solid body and the obvious wounds on it. So that's how it is. She was wondering how the people from Beast Taming King's Valley found a way to deal with this crimson figure so quickly. If they could find a way to deal with this crimson figure, they wouldn't have to gather so many people here and expose the location of Shattered Star Valley. It turned out that this crimson figure had sucked enough of their blood and chi, exposing itself. Now that it was exposed, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley could easily shake it off. And because its body was exposed, the physical attacks that didn't work on it before were now effective. No wonder the people from Beast Taming King's Valley could shake it off and rush into the depths of the cave. But with this crimson figure blocking her way, she was in trouble. Luo Qingtong frowned. She watched as the crimson figure rushed towards her again. This crimson figure now had a solid body, and it was its own body. Its attacks were no longer limited to spiritual energy. Luo Qingtong frowned slightly as she watched it continue to grab her with its big hand. Bang! She leaped into the air, and the gigantic crimson figure grabbed nothing but air, creating a huge hole in the ground where she was standing. Then it roared again and tried to grab Luo Qingtong. The giant blood-red figure was a Holy Spirit realm expert, but its true strength was comparable to a Holy Venerate. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to force the Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others into such a sorry state. After all, Its spiritual energy attacks and possession were very difficult to deal with for beast-taming King Guguju and the others. Except for beast-taming King Guguju and a few others, the others basically couldn't resist its attacks. At this moment, because it was fed by beast-tamer King Guguju and the others, it had a physical body. Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others could easily escape, but Luo Qingtong was blocked because of its physical attack. Otherwise, with her ability to see through the blood-red figure and resist its mental attacks, she would have been able to kill it easily. At the very least, under the threat of the life blade, the other party could not block her path. But now this huge blood-red figure had a physical attack, which made it difficult for Luo Qingtong to deal with. Keep an eye on her. Luo Qingtong tossed Yunxi to Little Pig, and the Great Yong Saint Corpse puppet to look after her. She turned around and opened her blood-red eyes to scan the cavern. The crimson shadow had been trapped in the cave before, which meant that its main body was in the cave. Luo Qingtong couldn't deal with the blood-red figure that had turned into a physical body. However, as long as he could find the location of its main body and crush the blood immortal jade bone, the transformation of the blood immortal jade bone would also be destroyed. Therefore, Luo Qingtong didn't panic when facing the attack of the blood-red figure. She was only worried that beast-tamer King Guguju and the others would catch up. But what she feared would happen. Just as Luo Qingtong's eyes were scanning the surroundings to find the main body of the blood-red figure and the location of the immortal jade bone. Chapter 2089. Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others were soon unable to resist the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. The 4 Yin corpse beasts were Zhuge Shursan's contracted beasts when he was alive. They had guarded him until he fled here. Now that Zhuge Shursan's corpse had transformed into Yin corpses, their bodies had also transformed at the same time. After the initial stiff period, their movements became more and more nimble, and their coordination was simply terrifying. In addition, Zhuge Shursan's corpse could use the power of the Venerable Realm. For beast-tamer King Guguju and the others, it was a complete nightmare. After fighting against the Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses for a while, several of them were killed. Finally, beast-tamer King Guguju and the others could not hold on any longer. Soon after, they realized that they didn't have to force themselves to stay here. The good things here had obviously been taken away by Luo Qingtong. That slut had used them as a shield, and had already run away. What were they still doing here? After reacting, beast-tamer King Guguju and the others hurriedly ran outside. At this time, Luo Qingtong had already found the location of the giant blood shadow's main body. The giant blood immortal jade bone was in the front right corner of the cave. The giant blood shadow would never have thought that a person like Luo Qingtong would exist in this world. A pair of blood-red eyes could see through thousands of things, and had already seen the location of its main body. After grabbing empty air with its 2 hands, it immediately roared and once again grabbed at Luo Qingtong. The huge arc and fierce wind created by the 2 hands surged like a tsunami, attacking Luo Qingtong from all directions. The huge force that exploded out was many times stronger than the one that grabbed at Luo Qingtong. Clearly, its repeated failures had finally caused it to be enraged. The girl in front of it was as small as an ant, but such a girl was able to dodge its attacks again and again. The giant blood shadow rushed at Luo Qingtong with large strides, its hands closed like a palm leaf fan. At this time, beast-tamer King Guguju and the others also rushed out from the passage behind Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong, slut! Seeing Luo Qingtong's figure, beast-tamer King Guguju and the others were startled at first, then they became furious. It was this slut who had just used them to block the disaster, causing them to be besieged by the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. Bastard! The thing is with you. Beast-tamer King Guguju's face sinister. He looked at Luo Qingtong's hands. Because she was in a hurry to be, she did not put it into the trash ring. This black package was faintly stained with a trace of the same aura as the Yin corpse, not to mention that it was stained with dust. Obviously, this was the good thing that Luo Qingtong had obtained from the depths of the cave. This B*TCH had indeed taken advantage of the time when they were blocking the giant blood-red shadow to obtain the item. Fortunately, the giant blood-red shadow blocked her. Otherwise, Wouldn't this be *tch have escaped long ago? You can't live if you want to. Luo Qingtong, you probably didn't think that the giant blood shadow would block here, right? Beast Tamer King Guguju's face was sinister. They used their blood to feed the giant blood shadow, then went around it and rushed into the depths of the cave. Originally, they only wanted to rush over as quickly as possible and not waste any more time. Chapter 2090. Good. Beast Tamer King Guguju laughed heartily. The veins on his face were clearly visible. Sure enough, this is karma. Luo Qingtong, just wait for your death here. This slut, let's see how she'll escape now. Beast Tamer King Guguju led his men and charged towards Luo Qingtong. Not far behind them were the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse. Beast Tamer King Guguju looked at Luo Qingtong with an evil grin on his face. The latter had just let them take the blame, but this time, they wanted to let her take the blame. Once they snatched the black package, they would let Luo Qingtong face the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse. They could use this opportunity to kill the giant blood shadow and escape. At that time, Luo Qingtong would become their scapegoat, taking the blame for them, and finally die miserably. Beast Tamer King Guguju thought of this scene. His heart suddenly felt indescribably comfortable, and his footsteps quickened. The group's speed was already very fast, and now it was like a hurricane sweeping over. Meanwhile, Luo Qingtong was preparing to dodge the attack of the giant blood-colored shadow, and rushed to the corner that she had scouted out to destroy its main body. But now that Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others rushed out, her plan was obstructed. She was facing a pincer attack from 2 sides. No matter if she dodged or not, she would inevitably fall into danger. After all, behind Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse of Zhuge 13. Roar! The 4 Yin corpse beasts chased behind Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, almost to the sky or to the earth omnipotent. Their 4 limbs were very strong, and almost from 4 directions, they rushed towards Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. 2 of the Yin corpse beasts climbed on the walls on both sides of the cave, while the other 2 chased from the top of the cave. Their rotting big mouths opened and let out a deafening roar. Almost in an instant, they chased from behind. Zhuge Shursan's Yin corpse was at the forefront of the charge. The power of the venerable realm lingering around it became denser and denser, and its movements became faster and faster. Their transformation was becoming more and more perfect. Luo Qingtong was not sure that after avoiding the pincer attack of Beast Tamer King Guguju and the giant blood shadow, she could avoid the attacks of the 5 beasts. No, not to mention 5, Zhuge 13's Yin corpse. It was very difficult. Damn, this situation. This was clearly a hell-level difficulty. Just as Little Pig had said. How could anyone who entered the Broken Star Valley take away Zhuge Shursan's belongings from the depths of the cave? It should be noted that the strongest people in the hidden world were only in the Venerable Realm. Even if there were Venerable Realm experts like the Temple Master of the Star Alliance, they could not enter the land of the deceased immortals, so how could they take the inheritance from Zhuge 13's Yin corpse? In this case, what was the meaning of leaving the inheritance? There must be a way to solve this problem. Since Zhuge 13 left the inheritance and sealed the entrance of the cave, he must have known that he would become a Yin corpse after death. If so, it was impossible that he did not take precautions. Otherwise, how could he let others take the inheritance he left behind? Wait. Chapter 2091. Inheritance? Beast Mark? Luo Qingtong looked at the black package in her hands, and a thought flashed through her mind. Swoosh! Her figure flashed in an instant, and she dodged the hands of the huge crimson shadow in front of her that were grabbing at her. At the same time, her figure swayed. Her soft and slender waist was like a willow in the wind, flexible and elastic as she flashed through the air, evading the beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others' attempts to grab her. Bitch! This was not the first time that the beast-tamer King Guguju and the rest had encountered such a situation. Luo Qingtong, this bitch, what was going on? How was she able to dodge their attacks at the right time? It was as if she had already seen through their thoughts. Sometimes her figure seemed to collide into their attacks, but in reality, It was this kind of action that allowed her to dodge their following attacks. How was she able to do this? The beast tamer King Guguju and the rest were indescribably shocked. If Luo Qingtong was stronger than them, no, she didn't need to be stronger than them. Even if her strength was similar to theirs, they wouldn't find it strange that she could do this. But Luo Qingtong's strength was clearly only at the Saint Emperor realm. A Saint Emperor realm expert. Such a person was like an ant in the eyes of the beast tamer King Guguju and the rest. They could easily kill her. But it was this cultivation that was like an ant in the eyes of the beast-taming King Valley Master and the others. But in Luo Qingtong's hands, she displayed unbelievable strength. The beast-tamer King Guguju and the rest had never met someone like Luo Qingtong who had the strength of a Saint Emperor realm expert, but was able to escape from the hands of the Saint Emperor realm experts, and even the Saint Venerables. How was the other party's strength like a Saint Emperor realm expert? Even other holy venerate powerhouses would not be so calm and composed in front of them. The beast-tamer King Guguju and the rest were indescribably shocked and flustered. If it happened once or twice, it could still be considered a fluke. But 3 or 4 times, or even more, that was strength. Back in the beast-taming King Valley, beast-taming King Guguju and the others had thought that Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian were able to escape because of Yi Qianxian's strength. But this time, the mysterious masked man was no longer by the girl's side. But she was still calm in front of them. How could they convince themselves that this was just a fluke, Luo Qingtong's luck? Clearly, Luo Qingtong had some kind of mysterious power that allowed her to see through their strength and attacks. Previously, the appearance of those blood-red figures outside was not due to the treasure map, was it? In fact, it was all done by Luo Qingtong herself. Thinking of this, the beast-tamer King Guguju and the others were even more shocked. This woman must not be allowed to live. The beast-tamer King Guguju's expression was extremely dark and ruthless. If it was said that he already had a strong desire to kill Luo Qingtong before, then at this moment, the desire to kill Luo Qingtong in his heart had increased exponentially. He watched as Luo Qingtong's figure moved in mid-air, dodging their attacks one by one. His expression was cold to the extreme. So what if this woman dodged all their attacks? Chapter 2092. He wanted to see how Luo Qingtong would die miserably. He didn't believe that she would be able to escape from the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse. If that was the case, then Luo Qingtong wouldn't have needed to run, and she wouldn't have needed to use them to block the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse. Beast-tamer King Guguju sneered. After Luo Qingtong dodged all the attacks in midair, she suddenly pulled the black package in her hand. Inside, there must be the inheritance of the beast mark. And the latter was most likely the solution to the crisis she was facing. She bet that the person called Zhuge Shursen wouldn't let the person who obtained his inheritance be killed by the Yin corpse he had transformed into. Therefore, by inheriting the beast mark, she would be able to stop the Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse from attacking her. Not good. Beast-tamer King Guguju, who was originally sneering and waiting to see how she would be torn apart by the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse. After seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, his expression instantly changed. He also thought that the package might contain a way for Luo Qingtong to avoid the Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse. Damn it, why didn't he think of this point before? Since this package was taken by Luo Qingtong from the depths of the cave, at the same time it was a treasure, it could also be a protective talisman to avoid the attacks of the Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse. But this couldn't be blamed on beast-tamer King Guguju. Since Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, they had been encountering a series of events. One after another, they had to flee and chase. They were almost driven mad by Luo Qingtong. At this time, under their anger and resentment, naturally their thoughts weren't as agile as usual. Quickly grab that package. Don't let her open it. Beast-tamer King Guguju's expression was indescribably flustered and exasperated. At the same time, he fiercely flew up, disregarding the possibility of crashing into the Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan, and directly flew towards Luo Qingtong to grab her. However, Luo Qingtong had already dodged all their attacks, and was in the air. If they attacked again, how could they catch up with the speed of Luo Qingtong opening the package? In the blink of an eye, Luo Qingtong opened the package in her arms. Shua. When the black package was opened, a dazzling light blossomed from within. Then an indistinct shadow rose from within. It was a thought that Zhuge Shursan had left in the package. My beast mark inheritance, to the one who comes. I hope you can keep your promise and return my heaven and earth beast taming technique to my family. Otherwise, to suffer the pain to suffer the pain of the soul. Hopes to remember the promise of 10 years. As he spoke, the golden light accompanied the shadow and rushed towards Luo Qingtong's forehead. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others heard the voice of the shadow in the air, and their hearts were filled with indescribable shock. Heaven-Earth Beast Taming Art? How domineering was the name of this art? And the clan? This was obviously the inheritance of the other party's clan. If Luo Qingtong obtained it, wouldn't it mean that Luo Qingtong would have an incomparably huge backer in the future? After all, no one knew how strong this man's clan was. The only thing they could be sure of was that the other party was from outside the region. In this way, no matter how strong the other party's clan was, they could easily crush their Beast Tamer King Valley. Chapter 2093. No way. They must not let Luo Qingtong succeed. She must die here. As Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others thought, they immediately attacked Luo Qingtong recklessly. However, it was too late. The golden light entered between Luo Qingtong's eyebrows in an instant. Driven by the golden light, the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge 13's corpse, which were originally pouncing on Luo Qingtong, suddenly retreated to the side when they were about to pounce on her. The attack was aimed at Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, who were charging towards Luo Qingtong. Bang bang bang, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were instantly sent flying by the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge 13. Puff puff puff. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, and looked at Luo Qingtong's eyebrows in despair. The golden light was about to merge with her body. However, something that no one expected happened. Boom. When the golden light mixed with the illusory light rushed into Luo Qingtong's eyebrows, Luo Qingtong's mind instantly boiled. Then, her forehead became scalding hot, and a hexagram mark rose up uncontrollably. In the next second, the golden light mixed with the illusory light was ejected from it. That's right, it was ejected. Luo Qingtong looked at the golden light and Zhuge 13's illusory light floating in front of her, and was shocked. She raised her hand to touch her forehead, and found that the hexagram mark on her forehead had appeared. This was the mark of the contract with Heng Ji, the mark of the Heaven and Earth contract. Could it be that those with the Heaven and Earth contract could not inherit this beast mark? Luo Qingtong looked at Zhuge 13's beast mark inheritance, which was about to rush into her mind, but was ejected by the hexagram. Her lips twitched. It couldn't be that bad, right? Could it be that because the Heaven and Earth contract was authentic, it could not tolerate a pirated version of the beast mark inheritance? But if she couldn't inherit this beast mark, then she wouldn't be able to get out of this crisis. Seeing that the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge 13's Yin corpse had already avoided her. But now, because the golden light and Zhuge Shursan's shadow had been ejected, she no longer had the aura of the beast mark inheritance in her body. The 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Yin corpse looked at her again. Roar. A Yin corpse beast crushed the sternum of a beast taming King's Valley expert, then turned around and roared at her. With a leap he charged towards her. The other 3 Yin corpse beasts were the same. Not to mention Zhuge Shursan's Yin corpse. After a shriek, it grabbed at Luo Qingtong. His attacks were even more ferocious than when he faced Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Because those who couldn't obtain the beast mark inheritance didn't want to fulfill the agreement with Zhuge 13, they deserved to be killed. Only God knew that Luo Qingtong couldn't inherit the beast mark, because she had the Heaven and Earth contract. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. At this moment, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others cried out in surprise and rushed towards the golden light floating in the air. That was the true inheritance in the depths of the cave. With it, they would receive unparalleled help. Chapter 2094. Haha. Luo Qingtong, I didn't think that you wouldn't be able to get the recognition of this distinguished one. This is too funny. Beast Tamer King Guguju laughed loudly. He was just about to lose all hope. He didn't think that there would be a silver lining. Luo Qingtong wouldn't be able to fuse with that golden light. Now this opportunity belonged to their beast tamer King Valley. Beast tamer King Guguju's heart was filled with unspeakable pride. He didn't know that Luo Qingtong was able to repel that golden light because of the heaven and earth contract. He thought that Luo Qingtong wasn't able to get the recognition of that golden shadow. Luo Qingtong looked at the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Yin corpse rushing towards her. Her eyes suddenly narrowed. If she couldn't get the beast mark inheritance, how could she get out of this dangerous situation? No matter what, she couldn't let the people of Beast Tamer King Valley get the beast mark inheritance. Not to mention, the beast mark inheritance seemed to be the only key to escape from these Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. What should she do? Luo Qingtong's hand reached out and grabbed the golden light into her hand. That ball of golden light was still persistently trying to hit her forehead. This heaven and earth beast taming art was modified by Zhuge Shursan, according to the heaven and earth contract. Just now, he felt the pure aura of the heaven and earth contract on Luo Qingtong's forehead, so naturally it wanted to enter her body. Moreover, Luo Qingtong was the one who got the black package, so naturally she was the inheritor recognized by Zhuge Shursan's remnant consciousness. But the heaven and earth contract in Luo Qingtong's body was extremely overbearing. It simply didn't allow the inferior beast mark inheritance to coexist with it in Luo Qingtong's body. That's right. From the heaven and earth contract's point of view, the beast mark inheritance that only received a part of the heaven and earth contract's effect was only inferior. How could it coexist with it in Luo Qingtong's body? When Luo Qingtong caught the golden light in her hands, the latter was still struggling with all its might. At this moment, Luo Qingtong had already stood up. Bang bang bang. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others who were charging towards her collided with the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge 13. In the blink of an eye, a few more screams rang out as more of the beast taming King's Valley's disciples died. Bastard! Seeing that Luo Qingtong had once again dodged their attacks, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others clenched their teeth in anger. That be *T. If it wasn't for the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse being a hindrance, with their strength and numbers, they could have easily killed her. Even if she had a strange ability that allowed her to see through their movements, how could she have enough strength to deal with them when surrounded? But these 4 Yin corpse beasts and that Yin corpse made their hands and feet tied. They had no choice but to divert their attention to deal with them. They gave this *TCH a chance for no reason. Beast Tamer King Guguju was extremely angry, but he still managed to maintain his rationality. Continue to charge. I don't believe that she can keep dodging. This *TCH's ability must have a flaw. Not to mention other things, it definitely wouldn't last long. He wanted to see where she could hide. Beast Tamer King Guguju's guess was right. Luo Qingtong's eye technique relied on spiritual power to maintain. The young girl had lived 2 lives and cultivated spiritual power. Her spiritual power was naturally many times stronger than normal people. Chapter 2095. If this continued, the first to collapse would be Luo Qingtong. She had to think of a solution. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She took advantage of the collision between Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Yin corpses to escape. When she saw the giant blood-colored shadow rushing towards her, she immediately frowned. At this moment, Little Pig's voice rang out. Here, here. Let her inherit it. As he spoke, he had the great Yong Saint's corpse puppet grab Yunxi and rush in front of Luo Qingtong. One person and one corpse had been standing in a corner, watching the fierce battle between Luo Qingtong and Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Yin corpses. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was unable to absorb the golden light inheritance, Little Pig suddenly patted his head with his little hoof. Oh, I forgot that she has the heaven and earth contract. The heaven and earth contract was already the highest beast tamer contract in the world. How could it allow other beast tamer arts to be in Luo Qingtong's body? Not to mention that she had to inherit the other party's beast mark. Obviously, the heaven and earth contract wasn't happy, so it ejected the beast mark inheritance. What should they do now? Little Pig frowned. At this moment, his gaze swept over to Yunxi. She was looking at Luo Qingtong with a nervous expression. Yunxi didn't know what the Golden Light inheritance was, but based on the current situation, it must be what the Beast Tamer King's Valley wanted. And Luo Qingtong was being chased by both parties because she failed to integrate the Golden Light inheritance. Coupled with the giant blood-colored shadow roaring and rushing towards her, her situation could be said to be extremely dangerous. If it weren't for Luo Qingtong's blood eyes, and the blood-colored shadow, corpses, and Beast Tamer King Guguju's group restraining each other, they would have formed a delicate balance. She would have already suffered a calamity. Just as Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others could think that Luo Qingtong's blood eyes couldn't last long, Yunxi could also think of this point. Her palms were sweaty from the pinching. Luo Qingtong had saved her several times, and always kept her by her side to protect her. Although Luo Qingtong didn't think much of it, Yunxi was very grateful to her. Without Luo Qingtong, with her strength, she definitely wouldn't be able to survive. Now that she saw Luo Qingtong in danger, she was naturally very worried. If possible, she didn't want something bad to happen to Luo Qingtong. But she didn't have any ability. She didn't have any strength. Just as Yunxi was feeling anxious and uncomfortable, Little Pig's voice suddenly rang in her ear. Yunxi was taken aback for a moment. "Are you willing?" Little Pig hated that he couldn't immediately capture Yunxi and bring her to Luo Qingtong, so that she could inherit the Beast Mark inheritance. In any case, this person was saved by Luo Qingtong. Letting her inherit the Beast Mark inheritance was better than letting those people from Beast Tamer King's Valley take advantage of it. Moreover, Luo Qingtong had to rely on the Beast Mark inheritance to get out of danger. Naturally, it couldn't fall into the hands of others. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong protected this girl. Otherwise, if Luo Qingtong couldn't inherit the Beast Mark inheritance, it would be troublesome. Little Pig rejoiced in his heart. However, he didn't act impulsively. Chapter 2096. Partner? Me? Yunxi murmured. She looked at Luo Qingtong, who was dodging the attacks of Beast Tamer King Guguju and the Corpse Beast, and nodded her head. "I'm willing." She was naturally willing to become Luo Qingtong's subordinate and partner. Being able to stand together with this girl, the life she would be able to enjoy in the future would definitely be exciting and magnificent, right? Not to mention, the reason she was still standing here was all thanks to Luo Qingtong. Okay. After Little Pig said this, he nodded his head and said to Yunxi, "Then you should make the vow right now. No matter what, I won't attack my master or the people around her in the future." Since he was going to give the inheritance to Yunxi, Little Pig naturally had to guarantee that she wouldn't harm Luo Qingtong or the people around her in the future. Otherwise, if he taught an ingrate, it would be even more disgusting than giving the inheritance to someone from Beast Tamer King's Valley. Little Pig naturally had to put an end to this. Okay. Yunxi made the vow without hesitation. At this moment, the situation on Luo Qingtong's side became even more critical. After she made the vow, Little Pig immediately had the Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet bring her to Luo Qingtong. That was why the scene above happened. Yunxi? Luo Qingtong looked at the Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet rushing to her, and didn't say anything. She directly raised her hand and poured the golden light in her hand into Yunxi's forehead. Yunxi was the only person she could entrust the inheritance of the Beast Mark to. When she heard Little Pig's voice, she already thought of Yunxi and was about to rush over. She didn't expect him to send her over. Whoosh! Luo Qingtong pressed the golden light between Yunxi's eyebrows. Before the latter could react, the golden light entered her mind. Buzz! Many things instantly appeared in Yunxi's mind. That was the inheritance of the Zhuge 13 Beast Seal's usage and cultivation experience. When the golden light of the Beast Mark inheritance entered between Yunxi's eyebrows, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others, who had just escaped the attacks of the Corpse Beasts and Corpses, were instantly enraged. Not good. Damn it, how could they forget about this girl? Seeing the golden light flickering between Yunxi's eyebrows, the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others almost fainted from anger. Previously, Yunxi and Little Pig, the corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint, had been standing in a corner, completely inconspicuous. After beast tamer King Guguju and the others rushed out from the depths of the cave, their attention was always on Luo Qingtong. They were furious with Luo Qingtong. She had completely forgotten that there was a weak girl by her side. If it had been before, even if they had discovered Yunxi, they would have been dismissive. After all, what was the use of such a weak girl? They could casually crush her to death with a finger. She wouldn't be a threat to them at all. But this time, it was different. Luo Qingtong couldn't accept the golden light inheritance. As long as they dragged it on, that thing would definitely belong to them. But now, all of this was destroyed by the girl by Luo Qingtong's side. If there was someone by Luo Qingtong's side who could inherit the beast mark inheritance, what could they do? Drag Luo Qingtong to death? It would be good enough if they weren't the ones killed. Chapter 2097. Quick! Let's go. At first, they wanted to rush forward and kill Yunxi with all their might. In this way, wouldn't the beast mark inheritance become an ownerless object again? They didn't believe that Luo Qingtong's strange ability could protect herself and the weak girl from their hands. However, as soon as they thought of this, they felt gusts of chilly wind coming from behind them. Quick! Let's go! The beast tamer King Guguju's voice was hoarse. He turned around and saw that the 4 corpse beasts, who were about to rush toward Luo Qingtong after they got rid of them, suddenly turned around and rushed toward them. And so did Zhuge Shirsan's corpse. The beast tamer King Guguju and the others had already tasted the power of the 4 corpse beasts and Zhuge Shirsan's corpse in the depths of the cave. If the 4 corpse beasts and the corpse hadn't been staring at Luo Qingtong and ignored them, they wouldn't have dared to stay and snatch the golden light inheritance from Luo Qingtong's hands. Obviously, after Yunxi inherited the golden light inheritance and obtained the beast mark, the 4 corpse beasts and the corpse began to protect her. This was indeed the case. Zhuge Shirsan wanted the person who obtained his inheritance to bring the universal beast taming spell back to the Zhuge family. Naturally, he wouldn't allow anyone to harm his successor. Before the other party obtained the inheritance, he didn't care how they injured or killed him. But after obtaining the inheritance, he wouldn't allow anyone to snatch it. Because the beast mark could only be passed on once. It could only be passed on to someone like him, who had cultivated to a certain level, and was very familiar with the universal beast taming spell. If he allowed someone to kill his successor, how could his beast taming spell be sent back to the family? Therefore, before he died, he had already taken care of his body and the bodies of the 4 contracted beasts. He wanted to ensure that his successor wouldn't be coveted and hunted after obtaining his beast mark inheritance. Roar! After Yunxi received the golden light, the 4 corpse beasts and Zhuge Shirsan's corpse immediately turned around and rushed toward beast tamer King Guguju and the others. They could sense the murderous intent of the other party towards Yunxi, so they naturally wanted to kill him to prevent him from harming Yunxi. As for beast tamer King Guguju and the others, when they saw the 4 corpse beasts and corpses charging over, their hearts were filled with shock and anger, but there was nothing else they could do. Under the protection of the 4 corpse beasts and corpses, it was impossible for them to harm Luo Qingtong and Yunxi. He might even be killed by the other party. Seeing that Yunxi had already opened her eyes, and was beginning to command the 4 corpse beasts and the corpses to work together with them, beast tamer King Guguju and the others did not dare to stay any longer. Even if they hated him so much that their blood was about to drip, they could only grit their teeth and leave. After all, although the 4 corpse beasts and the corpse were strong, they were still fighting for themselves. But now, under Yunxi's command, they had begun to cooperate with each other. In this way, the combat power of the 5 beasts suddenly soared. How could beast tamer King Guguju and the others be a match for them? Not to mention that there was also Luo Qingtong, the evildoer, here. Thinking of Luo Qingtong's magical ability that seemed to be able to see through their movements, beast tamer King Guguju and the others felt a chill in their hearts. Chapter 2098. Everyone shuddered at the thought. Then they hurriedly rushed towards the entrance of the cave. However, whatever they could think of, Luo Qingtong could naturally think of as well. Seeing that the 4 corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's corpse all turned and rushed toward the beast tamer King Guguju and the others, Luo Qingtong sneered. The beast mark inheritance, as she had thought, could dispel the attacks from the 4 corpse beasts and the corpses. The man called Zhuge Shursan would not allow his successor to be threatened. Then they would play slowly. Can position. Seeing that Yunxi had not only dispelled the attacks of the 4 corpse beasts and the corpses, but could even control their movements. Luo Qingtong's lips suddenly curled into an evil and cold smile. She had always been the most vengeful person. Didn't the beast tamer King Guguju and the others have fun besieging her just now? She would make them feel even better in a while. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, and her eyes were cold. And Yunxi, the moment Luo Qingtong opened her mouth, she had already understood her intention, and immediately commanded a corpse beast to jump to the position Luo Qingtong had said. There happened to be a high-level member of the Beast Tamer King Valley there, and it was none other than the person who had fought with Luo Qingtong several times before. In the Beast Tamer King Valley, he had almost used the superior Orchid Sirius to expose Su Yu and the others. It was because he had brought the superior Orchid Sirius that a series of events had happened. Fang Jingyu's contracted beasts had rioted, and then Luo Qingtong had pretended to expose her beast tamer talent. After that, she had entered the beast garden, and finally obtained the whereabouts of the book. She had taken the opportunity to enter the forbidden area of the Beast Tamer King Valley, and read the holy book. Speaking of which, Luo Qingtong had to thank him. If it weren't for his mistake, Luo Qingtong might not have found the whereabouts of the holy book. Not to mention the news of Luo Jinghong. At this moment, she would naturally thank him properly. Roar! When the corpse beast jumped over, the Grand Elder just happened to attack another corpse beast on the side. Just as he blasted out this move, the corpse beast jumped in front of him. At this moment, he had no time to counterattack, let alone block it. Ah! With a blood-curdling scream, the Supreme Elder's figure instantly disappeared into the mouth of the corpse beast. His upper body was being chewed by the corpse beast, while his lower body was still standing in place, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. There were so many people in the Beast Tamer King's Valley, but they were either in the middle of attacking or had just finished using their moves. The chi in their bodies had yet to be regenerated. There were so many people, yet not a single one of them managed to save him in time. His grasp of timing was simply terrifying. Supreme Elder. Seeing this, the Beast Tamer King Guguju's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His eyes were wide open. His eye sockets looked as if they were about to burst open, as they were slightly bloodshot. He clenched his teeth so hard that his mouth was full of blood. Bitch. The Beast Tamer King Guguju looked at Luo Qingtong with resentment. He was joining forces with the Dark Elder and others to resist the corpse beast of Zhuge Shursan. Who would have thought that when he turned around, he would see the Supreme Elder die so miserably? The girl just glanced at him indifferently, and continued to give orders to Yunxi. Gung position. Heaven position. Chapter 2099. It was already hard for them to defend against the attacks of the corpse beasts and corpses. At this moment, under Luo Qingtong's command and guidance, the attacks of the corpse beasts and corpses were even harder to defend against. Not to mention anything else, when faced with the attacks of the corpse beasts and corpses, it was impossible for them to not fight back at all, right? But under Luo Qingtong's guidance, their counterattack, which was meant to resist and survive, became their own death sentence. After each attack was launched, there would always be a moment when the old energy was released, before the new energy could be generated. At the same time, it was very hard to change moves. Originally, with the strength of the Beast Taming King's Valley's higher-ups, this moment was just a moment. It would not affect their following attacks and movements. But at this moment, under Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes, this moment of stagnation, and the time when the old energy and new energy were exchanged became their fatal flaw. Others would not be able to seize this moment. It was even more impossible for them to successfully kill each other with so many people guarding against each other. But Luo Qingtong could. Under her guidance, those Beast Taming King's Valley people did not make a move. Once they made a move, There was a chance that the girl would seize the opportunity and order the Een corpse beasts and Een corpses to kill them. Every time Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, a beast taming King's Valley high-ups would die with a blood-curdling scream. The girl's clear and melodious voice, in their ears, was like the voice of the King of Hell taking their lives. It was as terrifying as the voice of the King of Hell. In this kind of situation, beast-taming King Guguju and the others did not even talk about running out of the cave. Even taking a step forward was extremely dangerous. From here to the cave entrance, it was clearly only a few dozen meters away. If it was a normal time, they would have rushed out in a flash. But at this moment, under Luo Qingtong's clear and melodious voice, it was as if they were walking on a road of no return to the Yellow Springs. They were afraid that before they could reach the cave entrance, they would all die here. Beast Tamer King Guguju was shocked, while Luo Qingtong took the opportunity to kill the main body of the blood-colored figure. Without anyone's interference, Luo Qingtong rushed to the place where the giant crimson figure's body was and destroyed it. The process was simply too smooth. This also saved Yunxi the trouble of having to deal with this giant blood-colored figure, while controlling the 4 Een corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Een corpse to kill the people of the beast-taming King's Valley. This would give the people of the beast-taming King's Valley a chance to escape. Today, she was going to kill everyone from the beast-taming King's Valley. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Her sword turned into a blade and stabbed into the ground where the giant bloody figure was, shattering the giant bloody immortal jade bone. Bang! When Luo Qingtong's sword slammed into the ground, the gigantic blood-red figure suddenly felt a huge threat descending upon it. It turned out that the girl had already seen through the location of its main body, and was only waiting to kill it with one strike. After a shrill cry, the giant bloody figure rushed toward Luo Qingtong at lightning speed, almost berserk. However, it was already too late. Luo Qingtong directly pierced through its main body with her sword. When the blood-colored immortal jade bone buried deep underground crumbled, the giant blood-colored figure also exploded in midair. It did not even have time to touch Luo Qingtong before it exploded into blood under Luo Qingtong's sword. Chapter 2100. Luo Qingtong's eyes were indifferent as she looked coldly at the beast-tamer King Guguju, and the others who were trapped in the cave by the Een corpse beasts and the Een corpses. The latter and the others were also attracted by the sudden explosion of the gigantic blood-red figure. They raised their heads and looked over. With this look, their hearts became even more terrified. Luo Qingtong had already killed the giant crimson figure. Then, wouldn't she be able to deal with them with all her strength? Seeing that the cave entrance was close at hand, they couldn't break through the encirclement of the 4 Een corpse beasts and the Een corpses. Deep despair surged in the hearts of the beast-tamer King Guguju and the others. But soon the eyes of the beast-tamer King Guguju were dyed with deep fierceness and viciousness. Celestial Palace Master, you people of Celestial Palace said that you would help our beast-tamer King's Valley. Now please help us to the end. Help us to the end. His face was malevolent and twisted as he looked at the pale and frightened master of Celestial Palace beside him. The latter and the others had been hiding behind the people of beast-tamer King's Valley. Facing the 4 Een corpse beasts and the Een corpses, the people of Celestial Palace were only from a second-class sect. The strongest among them was only in the Holy Spirit realm. Since the awakening of the 4 Een corpse beasts and the Een corpses, they had been hiding behind the people of beast-tamer King's Valley with pale and frightened faces. Fortunately, the 4 Een corpse beasts and the Een corpses had locked onto the powerful people of beast-tamer King's Valley first, so they could barely escape. Hearing the words of the beast-tamer King Guguju, the hearts of the Celestial Palace Master and the others were filled with indescribable fear. Looking at the malevolent face of the beast-tamer King Guguju, they couldn't help but ask in a stern voice, "Beast-tamer King Guguju, what do you mean by this?" The voice of the Celestial Palace Master was sharp and resounding. "We from Celestial Palace are here to help you guys from beast-taming King's Valley. What are you trying to do?" The Master of Celestial Palace felt an indescribable fear. He didn't know why, but he felt that beast-tamer King Guguju's words weren't as simple as they seemed. It was as if he wanted to do something to the people of Celestial Palace. Beast-tamer King Guguju's following words confirmed his thoughts. What do you want? The beast tamer King Guguju's expression was sinister and fierce. Naturally, I'm borrowing your lives, Celestial Palace Master, since you came to help our beast-taming King's Valley. I'm sure you won't be stingy, right? Beast Tamer King Guguju sneered. To help them? The words of the Master of Celestial Palace were simply ridiculous. Wasn't it because they promised benefits that the people of Celestial Palace agreed to help? What's more, from the moment they faced the giant blood shadow outside, the people of Celestial Palace weren't of any use. Not to mention when they faced the 4 Een Corpse beasts and the Een Corpse. It was the people of beast-taming King's Valley who stood at the front and gave them a chance to live. Now it was time for them to pay back their lives. Beast Tamer King Guguju thought about it, and suddenly smiled sinisterly. He then said to his subordinates of beast-taming King's Valley, "Throw them out for me. Let them block the 4 Een Corpse beasts and Zhuge Shirsan's Een Corpse." Although the people of Celestial Palace weren't strong enough to deal with the 4 Een Corpse beasts and the Een Corpse. Chapter 2101. As long as they were alive, it would be fine. As long as the people of Celestial Palace blocked the 4 Een Corpse beasts and the Een Corpse for a while, the people of beast-taming King's Valley would be able to escape. Once they were outside the valley, he would Luo Qingtong and the others would be in big trouble. Beast-taming King Guguju's voice was bloodthirsty. But when the people of Celestial Palace heard his words, they almost fell to the ground. Beast-taming King Guguju, you can't do this. We are from the Star Alliance Palace. We have the backing of the Star Alliance Palace. You can't just ignore us. The people of Celestial Palace were so scared that they even mentioned the name of the Star Alliance Palace. However, beast-taming King Guguju had already made up his mind to send them to their deaths. How could he be moved by their words? Not to mention, the Star Alliance Palace? Beast-taming King Guguju sneered. You will enter the Broken Star Valley with us and deal with this Luo Qingtong together. If you die here, what does it have to do with us? As he spoke, the smile on his face became more and more ferocious. All of this was done by Luo Qingtong. And if you die, the people of beast-taming King's Valley will be very sad. Don't worry. We will definitely tell the people of the Star Alliance Palace about this and kill Luo Qingtong to avenge you. Ha ha ha. In fact, the people of Celestial Palace didn't know that beast-taming King Guguju and the others had this idea from the very beginning. They exposed the existence of the Broken Star Valley to attract people from other forces to be cannon fodder. Not only did they not want those people to live, but they also didn't want the people of Celestial Palace to live. Once they got their hands on it, they would kill everyone in the valley except for the beast-taming King's Valley, while completely concealing the fact that their beast-taming King's Valley had obtained the inheritance. They also wanted to push this matter onto Luo Qingtong. She had become the target of all the sects in the hidden world. In this way, they could legitimately join forces with the other sects in the land of the deceased immortals to kill Luo Qingtong, forcing her to hand over the treasure map. At that time, even if Luo Qingtong had the protection of a first-class sect like the Heavenly Yuan sect, it would be of no use. However, before they could carry out their plan, Luo Qingtong had come to the Broken Stars Valley with those people. Not only did it shatter their plans, it also forced them into a life-and-death situation. Under such circumstances, the people of Celestial Palace still wanted to use the people of Star Alliance to suppress them in exchange for a chance to survive. How ridiculous was this? Even without Luo Qingtong, they would still die. Only the people of Celestial Palace would be stupid enough to think that the people of beast-taming King's Valley were really prepared to use benefits in exchange for a chance to help. It was simply ridiculous. They would die here without any evidence. Who could say that they killed them? Luo Qingtong? Would the people of Star Alliance believe her words? These idiots of Celestial Palace. The words of beast-taming King Guguju made the faces of the people of Celestial Palace pale. At this moment, they finally understood the situation they were in. There was no way for them to survive. The people of beast-taming King's Valley didn't plan to let them live from the beginning. They even thought of what they would say to the outside world after their deaths. These bastards. The voice of the Celestial Palace Master was sharp and desperate. Chapter 2102. After he screamed, he was kicked out of the group by the beast tamer King Guguju and the others. The rest of the Celestial Palace people did the same. Even if they begged and pleaded, the beast tamer King Guguju and the others were not moved at all. They could only live if they lost the people of Celestial Palace. Go! After kicking out the people of Celestial Palace and letting them face the 4 corpse beasts and corpses, the beast tamer King Guguju ordered. In an instant, the people of Beast Tamer Valley rushed out of the cave. Seeing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. She waved the life and death sword in her hand and was about to rush out. At this moment, Yunxi stopped her. Don't chase after them. There is a time limit to controlling these corpses and corpse beasts. Yunxi's forehead and hands were full of sweat. First, it took a lot of effort to control these corpse beasts and corpses. Second, only she knew in her heart that although Zhuge Shursan had done something to the corpses of his contracted beasts and himself, he was too powerful. After transforming into corpses, his strength would only increase gradually. At that time, he might be able to get rid of the arrangements he had left behind. Therefore, in order to eliminate this hidden danger, he set a time limit to control them. He let his corpses and contracted beasts' corpses self-destruct after protecting his successor during this period of time. At this moment, there was not much time left. It could be said that Yunxi was completely under great psychological pressure to control the 4 corpse beasts and corpses to attack. She was afraid that before the people of Beast Tamer Valley died, the 4 corpse beasts and corpses would self-destruct first. Fortunately, the people of Beast Tamer Valley ran away. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong stopped in her tracks. She looked at Yunxi, and the corners of her lips curled up. She smiled at her and said, "Well done." Luo Qingtong did not know that there was a time limit to controlling these corpse beasts and corpses. But thinking about it, it was normal. The corpse puppets of the great Yong saints could continuously increase their strength in the land of the fallen immortals. So Zhuge Shursan's corpse must be the same. He was powerful to begin with. The moment he transformed into a Holy Venerable Realm corpse, he could even use the power of the Holy Venerable Realm. If it were to improve further, with Yunxi's strength, she might not be able to restrain it. Since Zhuge Shursan wanted his successor to bring his beast-taming spell back to the family, it was normal for him to set a time limit without knowing the strength of the person. Otherwise, it would be hilarious if his successor was killed by his own corpse. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately put away the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand, turned around, and rushed back into the cave. The Celestial Palace Master, who was being held in the mouth of a corpse beast, heard the conversation between Luo Qingtong and Yunxi. He was so angry that he couldn't even catch his breath. He died of anger just like that. So these 4 corpse beasts and the corpse had a time limit. If Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others had held on for a little longer, they might have been able to hold on until the corpse and the corpse beasts collapsed. But they ran away. They even caused him and the others to die here for no reason. Those bastards of Beast Tamer Valley. His eyes were wide open. He really died with remaining grievances. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others rushed out of the cave. Looking at the huge cave behind them, Beast Tamer King Guguju shouted, "Quick! Let's destroy this cave." Chapter 2103. His face was full of resentment. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, actually forced them into such an embarrassing situation. But she didn't expect that they would escape in the end, right? Now, it was their turn to let her die without a burial place. She would be buried together with the beast mark inheritance. Of course, this was also to prevent the 4 corpse beasts and corpses from chasing them out. Yes, the higher-ups of the beast-taming King's Valley hurriedly responded. They naturally knew the consequences of the 4 corpse beasts and corpses chasing them out. Although they had already escaped from the cave, they would be fine as long as they got out of the valley. But who knew how many people would die in the process? That Luo Qingtong was really their nemesis. They couldn't let her chase them out. Thinking of this, they immediately turned back and directly bombarded the mountain at the top of the cave with tyrannical attacks. Rumble! Under their attacks, The mountain at the top of the cave shook. Then with a boom it suddenly collapsed. Gravel splashed and boulders crashed. In an instant, it was as if the sky was falling and the earth was rending. In the cave, Luo Qingtong put away her sword and walked in the direction of Yin Shi. She was about to ask Yin Shi if there was any other way out of the cave besides the entrance. After all, the Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses had a limited time, so they naturally couldn't go out from the entrance of the cave, or even the entrance of the Broken Star Valley. But they couldn't stay in the cave for a long time. If they didn't see them chase out, the people of the Beast-Taming King's Valley would inevitably be suspicious. Luo Qingtong believed that since the man named Zhuge Shursan set the time limit for the Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses, he must have considered how his inheritor could leave. Otherwise, what if his successor was robbed and killed when he left the valley? Since the other party wanted his inheritor to bring back his beast-taming incantation, it was impossible that he didn't take this precaution. However, before she could speak, she heard a loud bang above her head. Then soil and stones fell like a torrent. The boulders above collapsed and rolled down. In an instant, the top of the cave shook and was about to collapse. What was going on? Luo Qingtong's face froze. She looked at Yin Shi. She didn't know if this was a sign that the inheritance of the cave had been inherited or some other reason. As for Yin Shi, when the ceiling of the cave shook for a while, the expression on her face suddenly froze. This isn't the content of the cave legacy. The man named Zhuge Shursan did not mention this in the inheritance. She hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong. Then he pulled Luo Qingtong's sleeve and said to her, "Quick, follow me. There's a secret passage here." Just as Luo Qingtong thought, the man named Zhuge Shursan had already left a way out. Yin Shi pulled Luo Qingtong along as they ran into the depths of the cave. The 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses protected them on their left and right. He led them into the depths of the cave. Coupled with Luo Qingtong's blood pupil, she could always find the safest path in the most critical moment. The group of people reached the depths of the cave without any danger. Then Yin Shi lifted the place where the man named Zhuge Shursan had passed away. There was a cave under the cattail hassock. It was covered by a force. Yin Shi pressed her hand on it. Chapter 2104. Feeling the power of the beast mark inheritance, the power covering the cave instantly disappeared, revealing the dark cave entrance. "Let's go." Yin Shi directly pulled Luo Qingtong and jumped into the cave. When they jumped down, the rocks and soil at the top of the cave also collapsed with a loud rumble. Rumble. The entire cave was covered by the collapsed rocks and soil. The 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Yin corpse didn't have time to enter the cave. In the landslide, they were instantly submerged by the rocks and soil that came down from above. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she looked at the mud and rocks flowing down from the entrance of the cave. She pulled Yin Shi and dashed toward the front of the tunnel. This tunnel wasn't a straight line, but a curve. Luo Qingtong rushed forward nearly 100 meters with Yin Shi. The mud and rocks that suddenly poured in stopped not far behind them. Yin Shi's face was pale. Looking at the mud and rocks that stopped not far away from them, she suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. The scene just now was really too thrilling. This must be the work of those people from the Beast-Taming King's Valley. She gritted her teeth. If she had known, she wouldn't have stopped Luo Qingtong from chasing after them. Not only that, she should have also sent out the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpse to scare away those people from the Beast-Taming King's Valley. Then this kind of thing wouldn't have happened. Fortunately, that person called Zhuge Shursan had left a secret passage. Otherwise, wouldn't she have killed herself and Luo Qingtong here? It's okay. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. They won't be able to jump around for long. When they got out of the land of the deceased immortals, she would let those people from the Beast-Taming King's Valley know what despair was. Here, they could be arrogant for a while. Luo Qingtong snorted coldly and hid the bloodthirsty color in her eyes. At this time, Yin Shi covered her mouth and looked at her and exclaimed, "Qingtong, your little pig." Only then did Yin Shi realize that the little pig and the corpse puppet were no longer beside Luo Qingtong. Could it be? Thinking that Luo Qingtong's pet had met with an accident because of her, Yin Shi's eyes were filled with guilt, and she was almost about to cry. Only then did Luo Qingtong remember that she had put Little Pig and the zombie into the 9-story exquisite pagoda at the critical moment. She immediately raised her hand and released them. "They're fine." Yinxi's expression. When Little Pig came out, he immediately patted his chest with a face full of lingering fear. "Oh my God. I was really scared to death just now." It shook off the dust on its body. It had almost been buried alive. The corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint also appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. Seeing this scene, Yinxi immediately felt relieved. Fortunately, they're fine. Otherwise, she would have really let Luo Qingtong down. Yinxi didn't expect that at that time. She had only considered that the Yin corpse and the Yin corpse beast couldn't be controlled for long. She was afraid that the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley would find out, so she didn't let Luo Qingtong chase after them. In the end, they almost got themselves killed. Thinking of this, she still felt a lingering fear in her heart. "Okay." Luo Qingtong nodded. She looked around, then asked Yinxi, "Do you know where this secret passage leads?" "No." Yinxi shook her head. "The inheritance of Zhuge Shursan only told me that I could leave by going this way." Luo Qingtong frowned when she heard that. There were two meanings of leaving. One was to leave the Shattered Star Valley. The other was to leave the land of the deceased immortals. It would be fine if it was the first one, but if it was the second one, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She still had the treasure map that she hadn't checked yet. It would be a loss if she just left like this. Chapter 2105. Rumble. Outside, there was another violent tremor as if the sky and earth were spinning. Even through the thick underground and piles of dirt, Luo Qingtong could clearly feel the tremors outside. What? The beast taming valley was still bombarding? Were they afraid that she wasn't dead yet? However, Luo Qingtong didn't know that this tremor wasn't caused by the beast taming valley at all. Outside, the beast taming valley's people were floating above the ruins of the cave. They sneered as they looked at the pile of dirt and rubble that covered the original location of the cave. Under this kind of collapse, not to mention that Luo Qingtong was only a saint emperor, even the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses wouldn't be spared. Bitch, did she think that she could do whatever she wanted just because she obtained the inheritance inside? Since they couldn't obtain it, they'd rather destroy it. The beast-taming King Guguju's face was twisted like a ghost's. He was both angry and sneering. It made one's hair stand on end. He looked at the pile of collapsed ruins, and was about to order the upper echelons of the beast-taming King Valley around him to clean up the huge rock fragments to see if Luo Qingtong and the others' bodies were among them. However, at this moment, a series of tremors came from outside. In the sky, a gust of wind and clouds surged. The black fog in the entire land of the fallen immortals suddenly stirred violently in the midst of the tremors. The black vortexes that formed were filled with a terrifying corrosive aura, enough to kill anyone wearing the immortal Jade Bones aura. The entire land of the fallen immortals changed greatly. This is... The beast-taming King Guguju and the others looked in the direction of the tremors with shock. It was the center of the land of the fallen immortals. Is it the forbidden area? Haha. Is there some movement from the treasure in the forbidden area? The beast-taming King Guguju and the others were wild with joy. They couldn't care less about the rubble and the possible corpse of Luo Qingtong in it. They immediately rushed out of the valley. The crimson shadows that were 100 meters away from the depths of the Shattered Star Valley could no longer hinder their movements. After all, the surviving higher-ups of the beast-taming King's Valley were all top-notch experts of the valley. If they hadn't been worried about the safety of their disciples, they wouldn't have been so embarrassed by the crimson shadows in the valley. They didn't have any burdens by their side. The attacks of the crimson phantoms were useless against them. Soon, they flew out of the broken Star Valley. Golden-winged rock. Beast-taming King Gu and the others shouted. They were afraid of the Crimson Shadow's attacks on strange attacks. And the beast-taming valley. And the beast-taming valley's contract beasts. Of course, most of the contracted beasts had regained their freedom due to the deaths of the beast-tamer King's Valley disciples. There was no trace of them at the moment. On the other hand, the beast-taming King Valley Master, and the others had summoned their own contracted beasts. The beast-taming rock and the others struggled, but they couldn't break free from the control of Guguju and the others. They could only obey their orders and fly over. Chapter 2106. Beast Tamer King Guguju sneered. Looking at the struggling look in the eyes of the golden-winged rock and the other demonic beasts, how could he not know that they actually wanted to break free from their control? Unfortunately, that bitch Luo Qingtong was dead, and the girl who obtained the Beast Tamer inheritance in the Broken Star Valley was also dead. They would never be able to break free from their servitude in this lifetime. Not only that, when Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others rushed into the depths of the cave, they also saw the contents of the 5th Beast Tamer incantation carved on the cave wall. With their strength, they could remember it with a single glance. The contents of the Beast Tamer incantation had already been engraved in their hearts with a single glance. Now the golden-winged rock and the other demonic beasts should give up on breaking free from their control. Beast Tamer King Guguju sneered and raised his hand to form a seal. In an instant, that faintly discernible trace of clarity in the golden-winged rock's eyes was suppressed by him in the depths of his mind, unable to rise again. Not only that, after the seal was formed, Beast Tamer King Guguju's strength increased greatly, and he even vaguely felt that he had touched the level of the venerable realm. It turned out that after fusing with the 5th Beast Tamer incantation, he discovered a new way to use the seal, which allowed him to exchange strength with the golden-winged rock. As a demonic beast, the latter's strength was originally stronger than practitioners of the same level. Beast Tamer King Guguju borrowed the power of the golden-winged rock. In an instant, the strength of the man and the beast increased by a level. The other higher-ups of Beast Tamer King Valley also followed suit, and linked their strength with their contracted beasts, instantly increasing their strength by more than one-fold. Humph! Luo Qingtong, that bitch! The beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master gritted his teeth. If we hadn't left the golden-winged rock and the others outside, afraid that they wouldn't be able to resist the psychic attack of the blood-colored shadow, how could they have been beaten so badly by her? That bitch, fortunately she died early, otherwise I would definitely let her know what it means to beg for death, but beg for life. Beast Tamer King Guguju's heart was filled with resentment, and had nowhere to vent. If they had brought the golden-winged rock and the others in, they would definitely not have been unable to retaliate under Luo Qingtong's trap. But who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would appear? Not to mention that she had a way to deal with those blood-colored shadows. Otherwise, how could they have been forced to such a state? But now it didn't matter. Luo Qingtong was dead, and the beast-taming inheritance that was most likely on top of the 5 beast-taming spells that they had fused had been completely buried under the ruins. It's S's. But compared to killing Luo Qingtong, it was all worth it. Not to mention that they had already fused with the 5 beast-taming arts. The resistance of the golden-winged Great Peng, and the others had all been disintegrated by them. Now that their strength had soared, the treasures in this forbidden zone were bound to be theirs. Let's go. Beast Tamer King Guguju sneered. He looked at the center of the fallen immortal land, where the winds and clouds were surging and the waves of heaven and earth were constantly erupting. He was extremely pleased. Chapter 2107. She thought she was invincible with the treasure map, but now such a change has happened in the forbidden area. I'm afraid she doesn't need the treasure map to find the treasure that so many foreign powerhouses covet. That bitch can just wait to see our beast-taming King Valley succeed in the underground. When the time comes, I will eliminate everyone related to her. Beast-taming King Guguju's eyes were cold and ruthless. He didn't care whether Luo Qingtong's name was real or fake, whether she was called Naitai or Luo Qingtong. It didn't matter. After he got the treasure and left the fallen immortal land, he would kill everyone related to Naitai and Luo Qingtong. Seeing her relationship with Sky Yuan sect's head disciple, Zhu Yi, he must know her true identity. Was she from the true Spill Continent's secular land? Then he would wash the entire secular land with blood. All the places and people related to her. Nothing would be left alive. Let's go. The group rushed towards the center of the forbidden area in the fallen immortal land. In other places in the fallen immortal land, the other fluctuations in the center of the forbidden area were also detected by everyone. Bang! At the place where the Sky Yuan Sect's people were training, Suyu Su Xiaoxiao and the others were jointly killing a Yin corpse that was screaming at them. Suyu, Thunder Beast, and Yuan Little Overlord were in charge of defense, while Sima Ju and Ling Tianhan were in charge of killing. Very quickly, the Yin corpse was killed. Suyu and the others were also injured. They were adjusting their breathing and taking the medicine that Su Xiaoxiao specially made for them. Those who were seriously injured took the pills that Luo Qingtong had left for them. The group was recovering their strength. Meanwhile, the entire land of the deceased immortals began to shake violently. The people from the Sky Yuan sect, who were fighting with the other Yin corpses, also looked in the direction of the tremors. It's the forbidden area. Bai Suqing and the Grand Dean looked at each other. The Sky Yuan sect's sect master and the others also noticed the source of the shaking. Seeing the surrounding black mist stirring violently, forming a black vortex that could kill people, completely ignoring the aura of the immortal jade bone, the Sky Yuan sect's sect master and the others' faces were very serious. Let's go and take a look. For such a big shake to occur in the forbidden area, it was unusual. Could it be that the treasure in the forbidden area had some movement? As the crowd thought of this, their hearts began to palpitate. Everyone from the Sky Yuan sect had been searching for Luo Qingtong. However, the scene in the fallen immortal land was too dangerous, so they didn't dare to wander around. Originally, he wanted to train at the place where he and the rest often trained for a period of time before heading to the restricted area to see if Luo Qingtong would go there. After all, the girl was in possession of that treasure map, and there was no reason for her to let go of the things inside. Otherwise, she wouldn't make a deal with them. But before they could, before the forbidden area, Luoz's. The group test the immortal land immortal TSS immortal along the way. They didn't know how many sects they met. All of them were heading for the forbidden area. Outside the fallen immortal land, the Star Alliance Palace Master and the others who had been guarding outside also felt the strange movement in the fallen immortal land. Chapter 2108. That spiritual energy hurricane was like a huge pillar of light that fell from the sky, covering a certain place in the center of the land of the fallen immortals. Inside, countless monster beasts roared in unison. Heaven and earth resonated with each other, and the spiritual energy was vast and mighty. There were also countless god-beast phantoms, soaring dragons and dancing phoenixes, and the laws of heaven and earth descended. That vast and mighty power could be felt by the Star Alliance Temple Master, and the others even though they were far away from the land of the fallen immortals. Ah! Great! There are indeed extraordinary treasures in here. The Star Alliance Temple Master was shocked and pleasantly surprised. He looked up to the sky and laughed, rejoicing that he had made a prompt decision to surround the entire land of the fallen immortals. It could actually cause the laws to resonate, and the god-beast phantoms. He was afraid that the treasure inside was really a sector beast, just as the secret story he had accidentally obtained had said. The sector beast was said to be more precious and powerful than the ancient god beasts. It was formed from the world's origin laws of heaven and earth that had evolved to the extreme. It was born with an incomparably powerful origin power. Legend had it that the person who owned the sector beast could control the law it had taken form of through it, and thus surpassed that law of heaven and earth. For example, if the sector beast was the embodiment of the metal law, then under the influence of that sector beast, all the metal law would be controlled by the person who owned it. Not only that, legend had it that when the sector beast grew to the extreme, it could even transform into a world. There all the metal law would be controlled by it. Everyone who entered would have to listen to its orders. Such a place was called the World Land. Anyone who entered that place, as long as the sector beast was willing, could be bestowed with the power of the metal law, allowing them to have a metal soul seal. With so many benefits, it made everyone scramble for the sector beast like a flock of ducks. Even the peerless powerhouses from the outer realms were no exception. When the Star Alliance Temple Master heard this secret before, he only treated it as a rumor, and didn't take it to heart. After all, how rare were the sector beasts in this world? They were basically legends, and no one had even seen them before. How could they appear on this inferior and barren continent of the true Spill continent? To be honest, if he hadn't committed some crimes and had no choice but to be demoted here, he wouldn't have come to this continent at all. The spiritual energy here was so barren that it wasn't suitable for venerable powerhouses like them to cultivate. Only fools would come here. However, who would have thought that the rumor that he had heard as a joke and a rumor would come true right in front of him? The Star Alliance Palace Master looked at the scene of hundreds of beasts roaring in unison in front of him, and laughed with incomparable pride and joy. Have people surround this place of the fallen immortals. Send more people here immediately. Don't let anyone in here go. I must get my hands on that treasure. The Star Alliance Temple of the Star of the Immortals here of the sector of the fallen immortal of the fallen fallen immortal fallen. He sectors of the universe. The outerium was so vast that he could do as he pleased, didn't it? Of the Lord of the fallen. Even the Alliance Master would have to treat him with respect. Thinking of this, the smile on the face of the Star Alliance Temple Master became even more proud. When the Star Alliance Temple Master gave the order, Yi Qianxian and the others also noticed the strange phenomenon in the middle of the fallen immortal of the fallen immortal. Chapter 2109. Master. Beiqing Windfeather and the others all looked at Yi Qianxian. All of them had extraordinary statuses, so they could naturally see what was going on. Sector Beast. The legendary sector beast, which was even more precious than ancient mythological beasts, had actually appeared on a low-level continent like the true Spill continent. No wonder those powerhouses who had died in the land of the fallen immortals were so united that they didn't even leak any information about it. They were still guessing what kind of treasure it was that caused these powerhouses to not leak any information even after they had died. Not only that, but their obsessions after death had condensed and not dissipated. Not only did they form the land of the fallen immortals, but they also used their minds to gather and prevent other powerhouses from entering. So it was a sector beast. Then all of this wasn't surprising. After all, even on their side, a sector beast was extremely eye-catching and coveted. If these powerhouses who knew about the sector beast's existence dared to leak any information to the outside world, not to mention themselves, even their friends and family would not be spared. It was no wonder that they had hidden this information so well. However, the appearance of the sector beast had caused such a huge commotion that it was likely that this matter could no longer be concealed. Even if the people of the Star Alliance Palace didn't know what this thing was, they would absolutely not give up after seeing the phenomenon in the sky. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold as he looked at the phenomenon in the sky. Gather all the people near us. The near us he spoke of was naturally not near the land of the fallen immortals, but near the outskirts of the true Spill continent. Yi Qianxian didn't have many people here. The true Spill continent was really too remote. For Yi Qianxian's forces, the difference was like a remote village and a city in the capital. However, even if there weren't many, it was enough to deal with the Star Alliance Palace in the true Spill continent. The news of the sector beast's appearance here couldn't be easily spread. Yes. Beiqing Windfeather and the others quickly responded. However, Windfeather's expression was somewhat hesitant. Once those powerhouses above the Exalt realm were mobilized, Master's identity would be exposed. It's all right. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. He hid his identity because he didn't want Luo Qingtong to face pressure from the other side too early. But since he couldn't hide it anymore, there was no need to hide it anymore. He hid his identity for Luo Qingtong. Now that he had revealed his identity, it was all for Luo Qingtong. The girl was the only basis of his life's code of conduct. He could break everything for her. Moreover, after this trip to the land of the deceased immortals, he was going to take her back to the other side. It didn't matter if his identity was exposed or not. Yes. As soon as Yi Qianxian spoke, Beiqing, Fengyu, and the others were pleasantly surprised. Based on Master's words, did he intend to bring the evil doctor back to that side? Ha ha. It feels so good. Master is finally returning to that side. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were still grinning from ear to ear when they left. Only the heavens knew that he was about to die from waiting. Those people who looked down on others and thought that their master wouldn't live for long, so they were waiting for their master to die, so that they could inherit everything. They were finally going to be taught a lesson. Chapter 21:10. Bei Qing chuckled as he spoke. If those people knew that Master didn't want to die, and was actively looking for a way to extend his life, and had already succeeded in extending his life for 3 years, what would those people's expressions be like? They would probably be uglier than eating shit. As for Feng Yu and the others, their faces were filled with joy and happiness. Only the heavens knew that they had been waiting for Yi Qianxian to change his mind, and be willing to go back to the other side. But as the treatment of the heavenly pulse body became ineffective, Master didn't want to live anymore. Even if there was a way to extend his life, he didn't want to try it. This was a very normal thing. After all, he was destined to be a king, but because of his excellence and glory, he was not tolerated by the heavens. Even if his strength was at the peak of arrogance, he could only be suppressed and reduced. Who could endure such humiliation and humiliation? What's more, Master was such a proud person. But this was different. Master had met the evil doctor, and there was a possibility that the heavenly pulse body could be cured. As long as the evil doctor's strength continued to increase, when she stood side by side with Master, she would immediately be able to remove the shackles of heaven from Master's body. In this way, what did Master have to fear? Not to mention the existence of the evil doctor. Master also had a reason to live. He wanted to see the girl and the pearl that belonged to him, under the sky of this star field, radiant and glorious. For this, he was willing to continue to endure and bear the injustice that the heavenly Tao imposed on him. In the past, everything that was difficult to bear and unwilling to bear was because he didn't have a reason or hope to persevere. But now he had. He wanted to accompany his girl for the rest of her life. If she didn't die, he wouldn't die. Even if the heavenly Tao forced him, he would never bow his head in fear. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others were grateful to Luo Qingtong from the bottom of their hearts. If it weren't for the girl's appearance, Yi Qianxian would have spent the last 3 years of his life in the true Spill continent in silence. Then at 28, when the time came, he would die, just like those people with the heavenly vein body who had appeared before. As for those who had chosen to follow Yi Qianxian, they would also be leaving with their master. It could be said that Luo Qingtong's appearance had not only saved Yi Qianxian, but also saved them. The group left in high spirits. Yi Qianxian stood on the mountain peak with his hands behind his back, looking in the direction of the land of the fallen immortals. In his eyes, the place where the incomparably huge spiritual energy hurricane swept up was actually surrounded by the consciousness bodies of countless foreign experts. The huge consciousness bodies formed by the foreign experts were happily looking in the direction of the spirit chi hurricane. They let out sharp roars as if they were waiting for something. That expression was indescribably smug and greedy. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes as he watched. Somewhere in the extraterritorial Star Alliance, a young girl in a light white robe was looking at a Star Alliance expert who had come to report to her with a surprised expression. She asked, "Are you sure? Did you really find him?" "Yes." The Star Alliance powerhouse cupped his fists and nodded. That powerhouse is currently in a place called the True Spill Continent. Chapter 21:11. As the Star Alliance powerhouse spoke, his heart was filled with disbelief. True Spill Continent, a low-level 9th-ranked continent. If they hadn't confirmed it multiple times, they wouldn't have believed that the man who could easily shatter the Mrs. Spirit Mirror would be in such a low-level continent. A 9th-ranked continent, and the one with the most barren spiritual energy. It was almost impossible to raise the level of a continent. In such a place, why would that powerhouse go there? Could it be that he had something to do, so he temporarily stayed there? The Star Alliance powerhouse didn't understand, but this didn't prevent him from reporting the other party's whereabouts. Hearing this, the Star Alliance eldest young miss immediately laughed. "Good. Have everyone prepare. We'll go to True Spill Continent together." Emo Zhuling was overjoyed. After so many years, this was the first time that she had been so obsessed with a man. During this time, all she could think about was finding Yi Qianxian. For this, she didn't hesitate to use her father's favor. He had someone extract the aura from his spirit mirror fragment and trace it all the way to the true Spill continent. Thinking that she would soon be able to see the man she had glimpsed in the spirit mirror, the man she would never forget, Emo Zhuling's face was filled with joy. Land of the Fallen Immortals, Broken Star Valley. Luo Qingtong didn't know that this had happened. She heard the rumbling outside, and then there was no more sound, so she didn't pay any attention to it. Being underground and separated by a thick layer of mud, Luo Qingtong didn't know what was happening outside. She also didn't know that a great change had occurred in the Forbidden Zone. The Forbidden Zone's treasure was about to come out. She frowned as she looked at the direction of the mudslide in front of her. Since she wasn't going to go out through this tunnel, she could only go back the way she came. Fortunately, there was no more movement outside. Presumably, the beast-taming King Valley people had already left. But thinking about it, the shaking was so big that the mountain collapsed and the cave collapsed. If she hadn't died in this cave, she would have already rushed out. Why would she wait until now? The people from the beast-taming King's Valley waited outside for a while. When they didn't see her, they naturally thought that she was dead. Time was precious in the graveyard of immortals. The people of beast-taming King's Valley would be stupid to stay here and guard her. However, the power of this mudslide was too strong. With the ruins of an entire mountain on top of it, it would not be easy to get out. Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought about it. Bang! After waiting for a while and confirming that there was no one outside, Luo Qingtong raised her sword and slashed out. Boom! The entire underground area covered by the mudslide suddenly trembled. Under the might of Luo Qingtong's sword, the mudslide that had rushed in from the tunnel was suddenly blasted forward for tens of meters, and then pressed back with a boom. No. Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She wasn't strong enough. The mudslide was fluid. Unless she blasted away all the ruins and rocks covering the tunnel with one blow. Otherwise, at the moment her power was reduced, the other mudslides would surge in from other places and seal the passage she had opened once again. And to blast open this tunnel with one blow. Chapter 21:12. After all, this was the collapsed soil of an entire mountain. Even so, the power of her crimson eyes was also taken into account. She could calculate where the soil was the easiest to blast open, where the soil was the weakest, and where the attack power was the least, reducing the difficulty by at least 10 times. Otherwise, even a peak Holy Spirit Realm expert, close to the Holy Venerable Realm, would not be able to blast open the soil and escape, let alone a Holy Emperor Realm expert. She could only leave through that tunnel. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, when she killed the gigantic crimson figure, she had conveniently collected the body of the gigantic crimson figure in her hand. Although it was shattered and its level was greatly reduced, it was enough for her to reach the Holy Emperor Realm. After all, the giant crimson figure was in the Holy Spirit Realm. Even if it was reduced by one level, it was enough for her to reach the Holy Emperor Realm. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately took out the shattered body of the giant crimson figure. That giant crimson immortal jade bone was shattered into countless pieces by Luo Qingtong's sword. Luo Qingtong did not take the smaller pieces, because that kind of crimson immortal jade bone was actually useless. As for the remaining blood-colored immortal jade bones, they were about the size of 2 palms. Fortunately, the body of the giant crimson immortal jade bone was big enough. Otherwise, under Luo Qingtong's sword, not to mention the Holy Emperor immortal jade bone, she might not even be able to get a piece of it. Luo Qingtong took the largest crimson immortal jade bone in her hand. Then, after thinking for a while, she threw a smaller crimson immortal jade bone fragment to Yunxi along with the other crimson immortal jade bone fragments she had obtained in the Shattered Star Valley. That's right, when she rushed into the Shattered Star Valley with the other forces, Luo Qingtong had collected all the bodies of the crimson figures she had killed. These could help the people around her improve their strength as quickly as possible. If she did not collect them, would she just wait to abandon them in the valley? It should be known that after those forces were wiped out, there was no one from the beast-taming King Valley to take the blame. With Luo Qingtong's current strength, she couldn't travel through the Broken Star Valley as easily as before. By then, even if he could kill a few of the bloody figures, he might not be able to obtain their bodies. After all, that place was filled with blood-red figures. However, he had a way to deal with these crimson figures. In the future, when Su Yu and the others' strength increased, he could bring them here to hunt these crimson figures. In any case, one could never have too many good things, not to mention these blood-colored immortal jade bones that could help her subordinates increase their strength, increase their comprehension, and allow them to break through bottlenecks without any hindrance. This blood-colored immortal jade bone was comparable to several ordinary immortal jade bones. What's more, the combat skills and cultivation experience contained in it could be used almost immediately after being absorbed. It was much more useful than ordinary treasures that could increase one's strength. Why not use it? While Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, Yunxi had already caught what she had thrown over. This is, she looked at the crimson immortal jade bone in her hand with a surprised expression. Because Yunxi had been purified, and because she had been protected by Luo Qingtong, she didn't see the bodies of the bloody figures in the middle of the team. Naturally, she didn't know what this thing was. Chapter 21:13. It's the body of those blood-colored figures. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. Blood-colored celestial jade bones. Take it and improve your strength. She already knew about Yunxi's vow from Little Pig, so she naturally wouldn't be stingy with these blood-colored celestial jade bones. What's more, the beast-taming inheritance had already been given to Yunxi, so these blood-colored celestial jade bones were nothing. If Yunxi's strength improved, it would be of great help to her in the future. Speaking of which, it was depressing. Luo Qingtong didn't know that she couldn't accept Zhuge Shisan's beast mark inheritance because of the heaven and earth contract. Otherwise, how could she find Su Yu and the others and bring someone here? She was really almost cheated to death. But it didn't matter now. Since Yunxi had made the vow, it was the same to give it to her. Luo Qingtong was just depressed that she had almost been cheated to death by this beast mark inheritance in the cave. If she hadn't coincidentally met Yunxi and brought her along, and if Yunxi hadn't repaid her kindness, she wouldn't have known how badly she would have been cheated. Just those 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge Shisan's Yin corpse were enough to make her suffer. Not to mention that there were people from the beast-taming King's Valley eyeing her covetously. If the people from the beast-taming King's Valley really stole the beast mark inheritance and hunted her down instead, it would really be a joke. She came to disturb the situation, but she ended up benefiting others instead. Luo Qingtong felt that she would probably vomit to death at that time. But the thing that cheated her was her own thing, and she didn't even have a place to vent her anger. That would really make her vomit a mouthful of old blood. Luo Qingtong thought so, and suddenly the corners of her mouth twitched slightly. And after Yunxi heard Luo Qingtong's words, she suddenly looked at the blood-colored celestial jade bones in her hand with a shocked expression. Blood-colored celestial jade bones? These blood-colored celestial jade bones. Her voice was stuttering for a while. She was originally prepared to listen to Luo Qingtong's words and use them to improve her strength, but then she realized that these celestial jade bones, these blood-colored celestial jade bones, had actually been purified. The murderous aura and death aura had completely disappeared. What was left behind was an extremely pure and dense aura. Luo Qingtong said that this was the blood immortal jade bone? A purified blood-colored immortal jade bone? Yunxi covered her mouth and almost couldn't restrain the exclamation coming out of her mouth. She had never thought that Luo Qingtong would have such an ability after seeing through the true form of the bloody figure. She was actually able to purify these blood-colored immortal jade bones. Yunxi couldn't imagine what kind of uproar it would cause if word of Luo Qingtong's ability got out. This girl's ability was simply terrifying. How many immortal jade bones and blood immortal jade bones were there in the land of the fallen immortals? It could be said that with Luo Qingtong's ability, the entire land of the deceased immortals would become her backyard garden. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that as long as Luo Qingtong was willing, She could establish a first-rate sect comparable to beast-taming King's Valley. In this hidden world, there was no need to fear anyone at all, and there was no need to look at their eyes. It was ridiculous that the people of beast-taming King's Valley thought that Luo Qingtong was nothing to be afraid of. They only had the ability to contend with them by relying on others, even the Tianyuan sect. However, in fact, as long as Luo Qingtong was given some time, it was not certain who would kill who in the future. She was extremely glad that she had chosen the right path before. If she had turned around and left like those people who had betrayed Luo Qingtong at that time, she was afraid that she would never know what she would have missed. If those people knew about Luo Qingtong's ability, they would probably regret it until their intestines turned green. In fact, Yinshi didn't know that those people didn't even have the chance to regret. That's right. Equals. Chapter 21:14. Luo Qingtong looked at her and suddenly asked, "Did Zhuge Shirsan's inheritance mention what the sector beast is?" "No." Yinshi looked at Luo Qingtong with a confused expression. "Sector beast, what is that?" She carefully recalled the things in her mind. She found that there was indeed no information about the sector beast. Why did Luo Qingtong suddenly ask this? Hearing this, Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her eyebrows. No. She thought about the words that had been turned into lines to fill in the mural. Could it be that the sector beast was something taboo that couldn't even be mentioned? That was why Zhuge Shirsan had turned it into a line of writing, and only mentioned it on the mural without explaining what it was. As Luo Qingtong was thinking, she heard Little Pig, who was next to her, suddenly jump over. Sector beast. Little Pig was squatting there and shaking off the dirt on his body. He loved to show off. The thick layer of dirt on his body was almost wrapping him into a mud pig. At this moment, he was busy patting and rubbing himself. He didn't forget to order the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint around as a coolie, asking it to pat the dust on his body. He was patting himself vigorously. When he heard Luo Qingtong say the two words sector beast, he suddenly jumped up and rushed to Luo Qingtong with his 4 little hooves. "Did you just say sector beast?" He widened his eyes. "Yes." Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at him. "You know?" Of course he knew. Sector beast. F***ck. This broken place. No, there are sector beasts in the true Spill continent. F***ck. This is as unbelievable as a golden phoenix flying out of a grass nest. Little Pig's heart was full of disbelief. It was because he knew what the sector beast was that he couldn't believe it. Oh my god, oh my god. Luo Qingtong looked at its shocked expression, and her willowy eyebrows rose even higher. What the hell is that thing? That's not a thing. Bah, I'm not saying it's not a thing. In truth, that thing is the embodiment of the origin. Little Pig told Luo Qingtong everything he knew about the sector beasts. That's it. Sector beast, a beast of a world. Once you control the sector beast, it is equivalent to having an origin space that completely belongs to you. Whether it's used against the enemy or to nurture one's own forces, it's very beneficial. Not only that, but every sector beast has its own power of origin, and this power can be lent to its master. In short, there are many benefits. Little Pig almost jumped up when he said this. "Master, let's get out of here quickly. The treasure in the land of the fallen immortals is actually a sector beast. Oh my god. Let's hurry up and get this sector beast while no one knows about it." No wonder these foreign powerhouses all died here, and were unwilling to divulge any information, allowing this land of the fallen immortals to stay safe and sound in the true Spill continent. F***ck, who knew that such a heaven-defying treasure would not be divulged to outsiders. Even its own parents wouldn't tell, let alone others. She would definitely rot in her stomach and die. Chapter 21:15. Even if she couldn't get it, there was no need to give it to someone else. Wasn't that the case? If Zhuge Shirsan hadn't mentioned it in his inheritance, Luo Qingtong probably wouldn't have known what the treasure was. Besides, with the mural being pasted to such a state, who else could see what the mural was trying to express except for Luo Qingtong? Little Pig had reason to be suspicious. The mural was painted by Zhuge Shursan before his death. Later on, he regretted it and pasted the mural to such a state. Little Pig hung on Luo Qingtong's thigh and squealed. Looking at its despicable appearance, Luo Qingtong couldn't help but flick it away. Of course I know that. Realm beast? This was indeed a good thing. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. But before that, she had to increase her strength first and then leave this place. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly said to Yunxi, "Hurry up and increase your strength according to the energy of these blood-colored immortal jade bones." Yunxi's strength was really too low. Luo Qingtong had given her some of the blood-colored immortal jade bones of various grades. Let's see how much she can improve. It was a pity that there were no demonic beasts in the land of the deceased immortals. Otherwise, if Yunxi could contract with a powerful demonic beast, they would be able to do whatever they wanted in the land of the deceased immortals. After all, the beast mark inheritance that Yunxi inherited from Zhuge Shursan wasn't limited by her own strength. Instead, it was based on the level of Zhuge Shursan's beast mark. Zhuge Shursan's strength was incomparably powerful. Yunxi didn't know what level he was above the venerable realm. The level of the demonic beast that his beast mark could contract with must be extremely powerful. Luo Qingtong felt a little regretful as she thought of this. But in this world, 8 or 9 out of 10 things didn't go your way. It was impossible for everything good to happen to you. Luo Qingtong didn't think too much about it. She quickly took the largest blood-colored immortal jade bone fragment and prepared to cultivate. But before that, she had Little Pig and the Great Yong Corpse puppet saint dig up the earth to the entrance of the tunnel and drag down the 4 crushed Een corpse beasts and Een corpses. To the corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint, it was a great supplement. It could increase one's strength. This Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet was refined by Feng Wan using the blood of his kin. It was extremely Een and demonic, and incomparably vicious. Luo Qingtong didn't know what level it would reach in the future. When Feng Yuan condensed this corpse puppet back then, it was most likely for the sake of helping him. But he didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would benefit from it. With such a valiant corpse puppet by her side, it was a very advantageous thing for Luo Qingtong. It was convenient for her to do anything. Just like before, if this corpse puppet didn't know pain and death and blocked in front of her, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have been able to dodge the attacks of the Beast Taming King's Valley members so easily and smoothly. After instructing Little Pig, Luo Qingtong began to cultivate. The pitiful Little Pig had just shaken off the dust on its body. When it heard Luo Qingtong's words, it instantly began to howl. However, it didn't dare to disobey Luo Qingtong's orders. It could only whimper and lead the Great Yong Saint's corpse puppet to dig a hole. Chapter 21:16. She knew that she was able to have such an opportunity because of luck. Luo Qingtong didn't have anyone else to entrust it to, and it just so happened that the people of Beast Taming King's Valley came to snatch it. So this beast taming inheritance was given to her. She didn't want to let down this lucky gift that could change her fate. At the same time, she was grateful to Luo Qingtong for the rest of her life. It was the girl who gave her this opportunity to change her fate. Otherwise, with Luo Qingtong's ability, Yunxi had an inexplicable feeling that even if the people of Beast Taming King's Valley obtained this beast mark inheritance, they might not be able to do anything to Luo Qingtong. This feeling was very strange. After all, with the strength of the people of Beast Taming King's Valley, after obtaining the beast mark inheritance, and being able to control the Een corpse and the 4 Een corpse beasts, how could they not be able to do anything to Luo Qingtong? But Yunxi had this feeling. In fact, her feeling was not wrong. If there was really no other way, Luo Qingtong would most likely release the seal and use the real body of Little Pig. However, in that case, the entire land of the deceased immortals would also be affected and collapse. For Luo Qingtong, the gains would not make up for the losses. That was why she chose to give the beast mark inheritance to Yunxi. After all, for others, the beast mark inheritance was indeed very precious. But for Luo Qingtong, this beast mark inheritance and Zhuge Shursan's beast taming method were of little value. The only attraction was that Zhuge Shursan's beast mark inheritance level was relatively high, and it could allow Luo Qingtong to contract with a demonic beast that was far stronger than her and not restricted. That was all. That was why she gave this beast taming method to Yunxi without hesitation. And while Luo Qingtong and Yunxi were cultivating and improving underground, outside the forbidden area of the land of the deceased immortals, a group of people gathered there, looking in shock at the scene in front of them where dragons and phoenixes were flying, hundreds of beasts were galloping, and thousands of birds were singing in unison. These scenes of heaven and earth appeared in front of everyone through the dense fog in the forbidden area, making them look on in disbelief. In the eyes of the sects in the hidden world, such a scene was something they had never even heard of, let alone seen. A first-class sect's disciple said as if he was dreaming. It said that there might be divine beasts in the forbidden area, but how could ordinary divine beasts have such power? This is simply terrifying. Yeah. Beside him, another person from a first-class sect added, "Look, those flying in the sky are all divine beasts. Oh my God. There are so many divine beasts. What kind of treasure is inside?" The people from the various sects were shocked, while the beast tamer King Guguju and the others were pleasantly surprised. Haha. A rare treasure. This is definitely a rare treasure. Beast tamer King Guguju and the others were overjoyed. Their strength had just increased, and they actually encountered such a good thing. Once the treasures in this forbidden area appeared, who among the numerous sects here would be able to compete with them? First-class sects? However, their beast tamer King Valley was already the leader among the first-class sects before. Now that they had obtained the fifth beast taming method from the depths of the cave, combined with the 4 beast taming methods they had obtained before, their strength immediately increased by several times. They could even command a group of demonic beasts, as if they were their own arms. Chapter 21:17. Beast Tamer King Guguju sneered. Aside from their own contracted beasts, there were also beasts that had escaped the control of the Beast Tamer Valley's disciples, but were forcibly summoned back by them. The upper echelons of the Beast Tamer Valley controlled all of the disciples' beasts. Unless the aura of the Beast Tamer art was removed from the beasts' bodies, the beasts that had escaped the control of the Beast Tamer Valley's disciples would still be summoned back at the command of the upper echelons. There was no way to escape their control. This was because the Beast Tamer art that the Beast Tamer Valley's disciples cultivated was progressively more powerful. The upper echelons had absolute control over the beasts. Therefore, even the lower echelons of the Beast Tamer Valley would be wiped out. However, with these beasts around, as long as they obeyed their orders, the Beast Tamer Valley's strength would not be weaker than any of the first-rate sects here. Boom! Just as everyone was pleasantly surprised and shocked, the black fog in the Forbidden Zone suddenly surged violently. Then the endless fog completely disappeared in an instant. That's right. The fog that was strong enough to kill anyone with the immortal Jade Bones aura disappeared in an instant. In the past, when the land of the fallen immortals was about to open halfway, the aura of the Forbidden Zone would weaken for a period of time. However, even if the aura of the Forbidden Zone was weak, it was still much thicker than other places in the land of the fallen immortals. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. Not only that, but the aura of the immortal Jade Bone would also be depleted many times over. Because of this, those who entered couldn't see anything at all, and couldn't defend against the attacks from the dark. But now, the aura had all disappeared. A boundless, incomparably vast forbidden area was revealed. When the fog in the Forbidden Zone disappeared, the eyes of the people from the various sects lit up. It's open. The passage to the Forbidden Zone is open. Everyone's heart was filled with indescribable joy. After so many years, this was the first time they saw the Forbidden Zone so clearly. It was a scene of lush greenery and flowers, full of vitality. There was a large patch of green grass in front of them. Such a scene was naturally very common outside the land of the fallen immortals. But now, it had appeared in the land of the fallen immortals, which was full of death and evil energy. It was shocking. At the same time, it also allowed everyone to know exactly how extraordinary the treasure in the forbidden area was. Turning the rotten into the miraculous, turning hostility into peace. This was a method of creation. If they were able to obtain the treasures within this restricted area, they would probably be able to ascend to the heavens in a single bound. At the thought of this, everyone's gazes became even more fervent as they looked at the Forbidden Zone. When the Beast Taming King's Valley's members saw this scene, they couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha ha. Sure enough, even without Luo Qingtong's treasure map, we can still find the location of the treasure. Let's go. As they spoke, they immediately urged their contracted beasts and other demonic beasts towards the forbidden area. Seeing this scene, the rest of the people also scrambled to rush towards the center. At this time, no one cared about the terrifying danger in the Forbidden Zone. After all, the temptation of treasures was right in front of him. Chapter 21:18. Under such circumstances, they were willing to take a gamble. In the Sky Yuan sect's team, Su Yu and the others looked at Luo Qingtong's figure among the many sects around them. Their faces suddenly became very solemn. Master didn't come. How is this possible? Su Yu and the others' faces were full of disbelief. They originally thought that they would see Luo Qingtong here, but they didn't expect that the girl's figure didn't appear at all. If it was because of the Beast Taming King's Valley's people, Luo Qingtong couldn't appear with her original appearance. But they waited until now, but they didn't meet anyone who took the initiative to contact them. Could it be that Master really wasn't here? But such a big thing happened in the forbidden area. It didn't make sense that Master couldn't rush over. Everyone was very worried. They didn't know if Luo Qingtong had encountered any danger in the graveyard of immortals. Their hearts were heavy with worry, and so was the Grand Supreme Dean. The little child of the evil doctor is actually not here. How is this possible? With such a big movement, there was no way that Luo Qingtong didn't know. For a moment, the Grand Supreme Dean deeply suspected that something had happened to Luo Qingtong. Especially when he saw the Beast Taming King's Valley's people being so arrogant and high-spirited. He couldn't help but feel a burst of fear and trepidation. Oh my God, please don't let anything happen to that girl. Otherwise, when he went out, how would he explain to Yi Qianxian? Instead, it was Bai Suqing who comforted him. Alright, you guys don't have to worry about groundless things. That girl Luo Qingtong might not be in trouble. But, she frowned and looked at the scene where the skylight phenomenon appeared. I don't know if this phenomenon was caused by her. If so, then it's going to be troublesome. With so many people rushing to the place where the treasure was, Luo Qingtong couldn't withstand it. Bai Suqing's voice resounded. Grand Supreme Dean and the others instantly recalled that Luo Qingtong had a treasure map in her hands. Now that the treasures in the forbidden area suddenly moved, could it be Luo Qingtong's doing? If that was the case, it would be like what Bai Suqing said. It would be troublesome. One had to know that this was a sect from the entire hidden world. Most of the sects in the hidden world, other than those that were especially weak, were all here. If Luo Qingtong really found the treasure, it would be impossible for her to snatch it away from so many people. Thinking about it, the Grand Dean wasn't worried that Luo Qingtong didn't come because she was in danger. Instead, he was more worried about her safety. Oh my God, quick, quick, quick. Let's hurry up and follow them. That little child of the evil doctor, could it really be her doing? The Grand Supreme Dean's heart thumped even harder. The crowd hurriedly followed the people of the Sky Yuan sect, mixed with the other sect's teams, and rushed into the forbidden area. While the crowd was rushing into the forbidden area, under the Shattered Stars Valley, the huge blood-colored immortal jade bone fragment in Luo Qingtong's hand was constantly shrinking. Because this blood-colored immortal jade bone fragment contained a huge amount of qi and blood, it was much easier to absorb and transform than ordinary immortal jade bones. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong wouldn't dare to absorb and break through in the land of the deceased immortals. Otherwise, what if she accidentally missed the time? Chapter 21:19. Luo Qingtong's body was surrounded by an extremely dense aura. Her entire body seemed to be wrapped in a dense fog. That boundless power directly surrounded Luo Qingtong, seeping into her bones from her limbs and bones. In this way, it improved and enhanced Luo Qingtong's physique. At the same time, Wave after wave of extremely powerful blood energy directly entered Luo Qingtong's body, filling up all of her meridians. This blood energy was all refined into a formless and colorless power, due to the existence of the blood-colored immortal jade bone. It didn't carry any aura. Once it entered Luo Qingtong's body, it immediately turned into her own blood energy, completely merging with her body. During this process, Luo Qingtong's body and strength were continuously strengthened and enhanced. At the same time, the comprehension of the power and realm within the blood-colored immortal jade bone continuously poured into her mind. It automatically filled her spiritual power, entering the depths of her soul. Luo Qingtong's spiritual power and soul power naturally merged with these experiences and comprehensions, turning them into her own. Her body, strength, and spiritual power all increased at the same time. The aura of power around Luo Qingtong's body was like a vast wave, constantly rising and rising. This kind of improvement didn't have any side effects or hidden worries. Just like in Wuxia novels, Luo Qingtong naturally inherited all of the power, aura, and experiences within the blood-colored immortal jade bone. Her strength and spiritual power continued to increase under this kind of infusion. Hua! Hua! The aura of power around her body rose wave after wave, constantly washing over her meridians and flesh. The comprehension and thoughts in her mind were also constantly attacking the barrier of the Sage Emperor realm. The power in her body became more and more abundant, more and more turbulent, and more difficult to control. The power that was about to overflow, as long as she could find an exit, she could immediately break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly, ascending to another level of power. Even though Luo Qingtong had all kinds of experiences and understandings from the bloody land of the deceased immortals, it wasn't easy for her to reach this step. In Luo Qingtong's tightly shut eyes, her blood-red pupils were spinning rapidly. Its eyes constantly reflected the scenes in her mind where countless experts had attempted to break through to the Saint Emperor realm. Countless experiences and insights were constantly magnified and slowed down in her eyes. Combined with Luo Qingtong's current physical condition, the power of the realm was constantly being adjusted and evolved. He was looking for the final breakthrough. While Luo Qingtong was making breakthroughs, Little Pig led the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint, and found the 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpses buried under the rubble, and dragged them out. The corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint succumbed to its instincts, and began to devour the 4 Een corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Een corpse. This was because Luo Qingtong had told them to leave the corpses intact. So this time, the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint only sucked the Een chi in their bodies, and didn't completely tear their corpses apart. The injuries in its body were constantly being healed because of the Een corpse chi entering it. Chapter 2120. While one person and one corpse were breaking through, Yunxi was doing the same. The weaker she was, the faster she could break through. In addition to the beast mark inheritance, Zhuge Shursan had left behind information about cultivation and his breakthrough experience. Yunxi did not encounter any bottlenecks in her cultivation of the heaven and earth beast taming technique. This was the benefit of the beast mark inheritance. Of course, this was also because Luo Qingtong had provided her with a large amount of blood immortal jade bones. She only needed to absorb them directly to transform them into her own strength. She did not need to slowly accumulate strength. Otherwise, even if she had all of Zhuge Shursan's cultivation information and breakthrough experience, she would not be able to increase her strength so easily. While Luo Qingtong and the other two were increasing their powers, the group of people from the various sects who had rushed into the restricted area also met with obstacles. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Not long after they had rushed into the forbidden area, rays of light immediately swept past. In an instant, a demonic beast from the beast-taming valley who was rushing at the front let out a blood-curdling scream, and then fell from the sky with a wail. The people from the beast-taming valley were shocked. Then they saw the demonic beast's body expanding in front of them, and then with a boom, it exploded into pieces. Flesh and blood splattered all over the sky, and then the screams of others rang out. There's something. It's entered our bodies. Someone shouted in panic. Their bodies continued to expand, and their meridians were filled with an unknown power that kept accumulating and blocking, and then quickly filled their bodies. Bang! 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 Sounds of explosions rang out one after another. And at this time, the flying rays of light were also noticed by everyone. It's them. They rushed into our bodies and caused the power in our bodies to go out of control. An elder from a first-class clan barely blocked the attack of a ray of light. And then, in front of everyone, the ray of light suddenly revealed its original form. It turned out that it was a completely transparent shadow of a divine beast. Screech. It was the shadow of a phoenix bathed in fire. After the attack was barely blocked by the elder from the first-class clan, it transformed into its own body, and then turned into a ray of light again and swept towards him. Boom. This time, the elder from a first-class sect was unable to block its attack. After the stream of light entered his body, his face instantly turned to one of horror. My power, my power. Before he could finish his words, everyone saw that he could no longer use the power in his body. The power attack in his hand disappeared. At the same time, more streams of light entered his body. Then, with a boom, his body exploded into pieces in front of everyone. Seeing this scene, everyone felt their hair stand on end. These flowing lights were actually all divine beast phantoms. It was a form of power. This power spread throughout the entire forbidden zone. Everyone who entered this forbidden zone would be attacked by this power. No wonder those who entered the forbidden zone by mistake all died. Even if there were some lucky survivors, they would be completely crippled. After all, to be able to take the form of a divine beast, how high was the essence of this power? Once it entered the body, there was no way to dispel it. Being able to survive was already a great fortune. Wasn't it normal to become a cripple? Everyone's heart suddenly sank as they thought about it. If there were no accidents, those experts from the extraterritorial region would have died under these flowing lights. Oh my God, what exactly was the treasure in this forbidden zone? It had such power. Everyone's heart sank. Chapter 21:21. At this moment a voice was heard. Wait, I remember now. By Su Qing from Sky Yuan sect and the chief disciple of Sky Yuan sect, Zhu Yi, whom she likes. Weren't they attacked by this power previously? They were healed later on. Do the people from Sky Yuan sect have a way to deal with this power? As this voice was heard, the people from the various sects looked in the direction of the people from Sky Yuan sect. To be more precise, he was looking in the direction of Bai Suqing and the Supreme Dean. Seeing this, the faces of the Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suqing darkened immediately. Seeing that these people were about to gang up and force them, Bai Suqing said decisively, "Our injuries have indeed been healed." But, at this point, she suddenly paused and looked at the people from the various sects who were overjoyed and said, "The person who healed our injuries is Luo Qingtong. You should have heard about this before, right? She is not in the team from Sky Yuan sect now. If you want to know how to deal with this power, the people from Sky Yuan sect really don't know." Hearing this, the people from the various sects were instantly disappointed. They did want the people from Sky Yuan sect to hand over the power to deal with the divine beast shadow. After all, if Bai Suqing and Zhu Yi's injuries could be healed, it meant that the power in their bodies could be removed. If this was the case, they would not be afraid that they would explode from the power of the divine beast shadow. However, Bai Suqing's words shattered their fantasies. The people then remembered that Luo Qingtong's previous identity in Sky Yuan sect was the honorary guest elder. How did this title come about? Wasn't it to treat Bai Suqing and the Grand Supreme Dean? However, they only knew that Luo Qingtong removed the power in Bai Suqing and the Grand Supreme Dean's body, and healed the injuries in the hidden world that the alchemists and alchemists were helpless against. However, they did not know that this power was the power of the divine beast shadow. One should know that the power in the forbidden area was so powerful and terrifying. Furthermore, the treasures in the forbidden zone had suddenly reacted, giving them a chance to enter the forbidden zone. How could they allow the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace to force Luo Qingtong away? Everyone's faces were filled with regret. The beast-tamer King Guguju and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. Luo Qingtong was unexpectedly able to deal with the power of these mythological beasts. If they had known this would happen, they would have captured Luo Qingtong in the Broken Star Valley, even if they had given up the beast-taming inheritance. Now that the young girl was dead, they had no way to deal with the streaks of light that were coming at them. Just as everyone's faces were filled with disappointment and frustration, a sharp voice suddenly rang out from the Sky Yuan sect's team. No, you're lying. Chen Tong rushed out of the Heavenly Yuan sect's group like a madman. Don't believe them. They're lying to you. Chen Tong's face was filled with extreme fear. The streaks of light that had turned into shadows and plunged into other people's bodies had caused their deaths, causing extreme fear in his heart. He did not want to become one of those people. Don't be fooled by them. Chapter 21-22. These people are all Luo Qingtong's men. She was the one who entrusted them to the Sky Yuan sect, so that they could train and improve with us. Just now, I saw with my own eyes that a stream of light suddenly stopped when it was about to enter one of their bodies. They definitely have a way to deal with these powers. Chen Tong's words immediately made everyone look at Su Yu and the rest. The gazes of the latter and the others darkened at this moment. Su Yu and the rest had indeed realized that something was wrong. When those streaks of light rushed over, there should have been some among them who would not have been able to escape. However, for some reason, those streams of light suddenly stopped when they were rushing towards them. Then they swept past them and went around them. No one knew why this was happening. However, thinking about it, this should have something to do with Luo Qingtong. The young lady had always liked to plan ahead and was cautious in her actions. No one knew what she had done to prevent those streams of light from going around them. Everyone was surprised and delighted. Originally, they had planned to secretly tell the Grand Supreme Dean, and by suching about this after everyone had questioned them. When the time came, they would keep it a secret and quietly protect the people of the Sky Yuan sect, so that they could charge forward unscathed. For this reason, Su Yu and the rest had deliberately spread out and surrounded the people of the Sky Yuan sect. This was so that they would not be injured. Before this, those who were killed by those streams of light could only consider themselves unlucky. However, who would have thought that Chen Tong had seen the process of those streams of light avoiding them, and had told them about it? Was this man an idiot? Su Yu and the rest were clenching their teeth so hard that they were about to break. However, Chen Tong did not care so much. He had previously offended Luo Qingtong, and wanted to chase away Su Yu and the rest after Luo Qingtong had left. He did not believe that Su Yu and the rest would protect him. After discovering their strangeness, his heart was first filled with joy, then a wave of shock and anger. He was afraid that Su Yu and the others wouldn't be willing to protect him. If that happened, wouldn't he die a miserable death? If he didn't know that Su Yu and the others were able to avoid the attacks of the flashing lights, it would have been fine. But now that he knew, how could he be willing to give up? He immediately jumped out. He told them all about the strangeness of Su Yu and the others, including their identities. His purpose was to prevent Su Yu and the others from hiding anything. When the time came, he could only protect everyone. In this way, he was naturally not afraid of being abandoned. When the people from the Sky Yuan sect heard his words, they were first stunned. Then they looked at the formation of Su Yu and the others. He immediately understood what was going on. Damn this Chen Tong. The group of people from the Sky Yuan sect even had the urge to kill him. This was especially true for the Heaven Branch sect master, Bai Suqing, and the Grand Supreme Dean. The upper echelons of the Heavenly Yuan sect could naturally tell that Su Yu and the others were secretly protecting them. As long as Chen Tong did not say anything, they would definitely not be harmed. In the end, this bastard betrayed Su Yu and the others. The Sky Yuan sect master and the others were so angry that they were trembling. The Grand Supreme Dean was about to rush out and kill Chen Tong. This piece of trash. I shouldn't have worried about the sect and thought that there was no legitimate reason not to attack him. What bullsh**t legitimate reason? Chapter 21-23. However, before the Grand Supreme Dean could rush over, the people from Beast Taming King Valley had already made their move. Ha ha ha. Good good good. Beast Taming King Guguju and the others sneered. Luo Qingtong's people? Sky Yuan sect, you've hidden your strength well. Are you trying to monopolize the treasures? As they spoke, their spiritual energy formed a giant palm and pressed down on Su Yu and the others. People from Sky Yuan sect, get lost or we'll kill without mercy. Beast Taming King Guguju and the others sneered. They didn't care about the people from Sky Yuan sect at this moment. So what if they killed them all? Since they were protecting Luo Qingtong's people, they should know the price of offending Beast Taming King Valley. Moreover, as long as Su Yu and the others were in their hands, those fleeting lights couldn't do anything to them and the treasures would be theirs. So what if they had to deal with the people from Sky Yuan sect? If they knew what was good for them and didn't stop them from capturing Su Yu and the others, it would be fine. But if they dared to stop them, they couldn't blame them for being ruthless. Beast Taming King Guguju and the others had a ruthless expression on their faces. When they attacked, the people from the other sects came to their senses and hurriedly jumped out to grab them. The fleeting lights were too powerful. If Su Yu and the others didn't have a way to avoid them, they wouldn't even be able to leave this place alive, let alone obtain the treasures. The crowd rushed towards the people from Sky Yuan sect, targeting Su Yu and the others. Seeing this scene, the people from Sky Yuan sect had ugly expressions, especially the Sky Yuan sect master and the others. They were in a dilemma. If they went in, they would protect Su Yu and the others. However, they would be besieged and robbed by so many sections. Their sect couldn't do anything at all. However, if they retreated, they had promised Luo Qingtong that they would protect Su Yu and the others. In their current situation, without Su Yu and the others, how could they survive in this forbidden area? When they thought of this, they realized that no matter what they chose, they would die. Immediately he was angry, anxious, and furious. At this moment, Su Yu's voice suddenly rang out. All of you stop. Su Yu's voice was cold and deep. Her crisp voice carried an icy aura, like a jade bead falling to the ground. Her sonorous and powerful voice carried the determination to destroy jade and common stone. If you don't stop, we will all end our lives here. As they spoke, everyone realized that Su Yu and the others had actually placed their palms on their carotid arteries. The energy between his fingers spat out slightly and stretched across their necks. With just a light stroke, all of them would immediately die. Seeing this, all the sects including the Beast Taming King's Valley stopped their attacks. Are you threatening us? Beast Tamer King Guguju's expression turned ugly. That's right, we are threatening you. Su Yu sneered. If you don't want to be threatened, feel free to continue attacking. Hearing this, Beast Tamer King Guguju's expression turned even uglier. They still needed Su Yu and the others to help them block the attacks of the divine beast shadows. Of course, they couldn't let the other party and the others die. It seemed that they had no choice but to accept the other party's threat. Thinking of this, Beast Tamer King Guguju's expression was unusually gloomy and cold. Chapter 21-24. He said coldly, "What do you want to do?" The Beast Tamer King Guguju's expression was cold. As he asked, he secretly calculated whether he could leave one or two alive before Su Yu and the others acted. As long as he could leave one or two alive, he would definitely let the other party know what it meant to be unable to live and unable to die. At that time, they could only obediently spit out what they knew. As long as he knew how the other party could avoid these flashes of light. Even if these people were all dead, what was the big deal? Luo Qingtong's people, even if they didn't want to die, he would make them die miserably. The only difference was whether they would die now or after their value had been squeezed dry. The Beast Tamer King Guguju thought, his expression cold. Su Yu saw through his thoughts and sneered, "The Beast Tamer King Guguju. You don't have to think about how to leave one or two of us alive, to force us to tell you how to avoid those powers. I'm not afraid to tell you. These are all the precautions that our master has taken for us in advance. She didn't tell any of us. It's useless even if you torture us to death. In addition, most of us have made a heavenly oath to our master. As long as we have a thought, we can be obliterated by the heavens. You want to threaten us? Dream on. The beast tamer King Guguju's teeth were about to break when he heard Suyu's words. He was so angry that he laughed and said, "Good. You're really like your master. You're really worthy of being that bitch Luo Qingtong's people. You really have her style." Unfortunately, that B*TCH was already dead. What heavenly oath? She had already given up. However, in order to prevent Suyu and the others from dying together, they chose to leave with Luo Qingtong. The beast tamer King Guguju didn't tell them that Luo Qingtong was already dead. The other party said that they didn't know how to avoid those flashes of light, which made the beast tamer King Guguju very afraid. Luo Qingtong was already dead. If Suyu and the others also didn't know how to avoid those flashes of light, then when they died, they would have to be buried with them. Not only would they not get the treasure, but they would also die miserably. Thinking of this, the beast tamer King Guguju finally swallowed the malicious words in his throat. He looked at Su and the others and said, "Enough, tell me your conditions. You should know that you can't escape. If you don't want the people of the Sky Yuan sect to die with you, you'd better behave." Suyu naturally knew this. Not to mention the others in the Sky Yuan sect. The Grand Dean and Bai Suqing didn't let them down at all. They even protected Luo Qingtong at all times. No matter what, they couldn't let anything happen to them. If it wasn't for this, why would Suyu and the others negotiate with the Beast Tamer King's Valley? Based on the fact that they weren't threatened by the flashes of light in this forbidden area, if they risked their lives to escape, would the Beast Tamer King's Valley and the other sects be able to stop them? Fine. You're not allowed to touch anyone from the Sky Yuan sect. Also, I want him. Chapter 21-25. When Suyu pointed at him, Chen Tong was scared out of his wits. He looked in the direction of Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others in panic and shouted anxiously, "Beast Tamer King Guguju, you have to save me. I exposed their identities for all of you. Beast Tamer King Guguju, everyone, you don't have to be afraid of them. They must be trying to scare you. They definitely won't dare to die. You can threaten them with the people of the Sky Yuan sect. If they dare to die, then cut the people of the Sky Yuan sect into pieces. For example, Zhu Yi and Bai Suqing. They will definitely care about the two of them." Chen Tong's voice was almost distorted into a miserable howl at the end. His heart was truly filled with fear. He never thought that Suyu and the others would use this to threaten Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Originally, he thought that he would expose Suyu and the others' identities. In this way, he could be considered to have abandoned the dark and joined the side of Beast Tamer King Valley. At that time, Beast Tamer King Valley would take action and control Suyu and the others, along with the people of the other sections. The people of the Sky Yuan sect, and Suyu would definitely not be able to resist. At that time, he would be able to follow behind Beast Tamer King Valley and the other sects and enjoy the great benefits brought by Suyu and the others. However, who would have thought that Suyu and the others would use death to threaten Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others? The latter and the others did not dare to act rashly. He, the bird that jumped out, was afraid that he would be killed. Chen Tong's voice was unusually sharp and miserable. He was almost crying bitterly as he knelt on the ground. However, Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were not the slightest bit moved. Using the people of the Sky Yuan sect to threaten Suyu and the others? What if the other party was not afraid of being threatened, and would rather die together? Now, Suyu and the others had grasped their pulse, and were using their own lives to gamble with the lives of the other sects. Who would be willing to take this risk? Moreover, as long as they agreed to Suyu and the others' conditions, they might be able to obtain the treasure in the forbidden area. Was there a need to choose who was better and who was worse? Who did Chen Tong think he was? Was it worth it for them to go against Suyu and the others with their lives? There was a hole in the head's brain. The crowd simply couldn't be bothered with Chen Tong. What's more, he called out Suyu and the others' identities for himself. It was impossible for everyone to not see it. If he didn't have a grudge with Suyu and the others, why would he expose their identities? Su and Suyu, and the others is of. S and the others were of ofs and the others, ofs and the others, s's. Of the of his, s of the of his to two of the of the to his of the two of ofs. Even if he wanted to deal with him, it wouldn't be at this moment. What an idiot. The group of people from Beast Tamer King Valley and the other sects did not even look at Chen Tong. Beast Tamer King Guguju waved his hand and threw him in front of Suyu. I'll leave him to you. You can do whatever you want with him. His expression was cold as if he was talking about a dead object and not the life or death of a living person. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.